Welcome everyone to the 2026 Skills Showcase. Today the program is going through Zoom, as people who are on the Zoom can participate in a conversation. This is a Zoom regular meeting. It's not a webinar. You could turn on your camera, go off speaker when time comes. We'll talk about it. Until then, please stay muted. We also have a live stream. Everything is going to be recorded. The main things on the program is recorded and is going to be posted on skills.law. And for the first time, we have in-person watch parties in various cities across the US, UK, and in February, we're going to go to play it live in Australia. So we'll start with a few thank yous. First of all, the presenters, the people who share their knowledge with us and allowing us to learn from their experience. We want to definitely thank our sponsor, Thomson Reuters, who made this day possible. I want to thank the Skills Planning and Advisory Committee, Ron Friedman, Mary Abraham, Lucy Dillon, who is retiring after this event, Kate Simpson, Nick Pryor, Greg Baker, Conan Hines, Megan McMillan, Alicia Hardy, and Rebecca Pasternak. It takes a village. Thank you for Timo and the Cosmonauts team for the idea of having the watch parties. And thank you for the amazing Stephanie that makes it all possible. And finally, thank you for the community. The reason we're here. Skills is unique in that it's a true peer-to-peer conference by the community, for the community, and the programming is free for law firm professionals and legal departments, and the only price of admission is participation. For those of you who are new to Skills, a few things to know about it. So Skills started with a summit. The summit is a get-together of people who lead knowledge, innovation, transformation in law firms. Started 23 years ago as a necessity. We just didn't know what's out there. There weren't many forums, and we started exchanging notes. And we are lucky that the founding generation, including Michael Mills, which we're going to talk about, were so kind and helped the rest of us and shared with us. And we had a community of pay it forward and sharing information. The showcase, what we're doing today, was the desire to, and sorry, people don't try to include your note takers. We don't allow note taking. The showcase that what we're watching today was a desire to show and share what works, and also to help the vendors to get other people to know what works. It helps ourselves because the better the vendors we work with are doing well, the more likely they're going to stay in business for us. We also introduce surveys to know what people are working on, what are they focusing on, what are the areas that they spend time, what are the areas that we need to think about, and what works. And then a couple of years ago, when the AI solutions started being all over the place, we added it to the survey. At noon, Absar Watt and Rebecca Pasternak were going to take us through the first part of the survey. And then the second part, which talk about all the AI use cases, we are going to do as part of the seminars. So every Friday at 11 o'clock, starting February 13, we're going to take one use case and we're going to talk about it. We're going to bring a few solution providers to demonstrate how it works. And then we're going to stay just the skills community to talk about it. Each session is going to be moderated by a person who recently went through the selection, who can help us guiding. And our friend from Legal Tech Hub will participate also in some of the guidance. We also have workshops coming, a workshop day on March 11. So if you haven't registered to any of the upcoming seminars or workshops, you could do it on skills.law. And if you want to stay on top of our announcements of new surveys and the like, just join the mailing list. In addition, we were asked by several people to help with legal onboarding. So we began working on the Upskills online certification program designed to equip professionals with the legal context, operational knowledge, mindset, skills, and in order to run and strive in AI, data, KM, innovation, operation, transformation roles in law firms, legal departments, and legal tech vendors. We're currently working with members of the skills community to create the content, and we'll let you know as soon as it's available, hopefully later this year. And the last thing, speaking of Michael Mills, we are working to make the Michael Mills Scholarship Memorial Fund perpetual, so we're still raising money from that, but we're also happy to announce that the first recipient, Subi Valuri, received the money this year. Subi, who is now in the New York office of Cleary Gottlieb at the Watch Party, is going to graduate from Cornell Tech Master of Law program later this year in technology entrepreneurship. And he's a slacker. He only has a PhD from quantitative economics and MA in master in law. And he works on combining law, artificial intelligence, blockchain technology. So you could read all about him on the announcement at Skill.law. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the agenda. We have 3 segments that starts with a content program, followed by 3 showcases sessions, and then a breakout room to discuss those, and then a break. At the end of each one of the 3 showcases, or all the 9s, we're gonna poll the people on the Zoom, and we're gonna ask you to rate how inspiring or helpful the session was for you. And at the end of the day, we're going to announce the winner for that. At 11:15, we're going to give you a proper lunch break. We got your feedback from last year that we kept on rolling and people felt frustrated. So we're going to be 25 minutes that we're going to off camera. The program will start at 2 p.m., but we're going to start again at 1:40, and we're going to have an open mic for interactive lunch segment for those who still want to join us. We will have some of the showcases that were ranked really high, but we don't have time to show all of them, are going to introduce the segments that are on the website. So some of the showcases are only on the website just because of time. They're going to present it. Some people who are hiring can talk about what they're doing, and we're going to have a conversation as we had every year. So this part is online. And then we're going to end at 3:15 with closing remarks and announce the winner. So house rules. This is designed to be a safe space for people to share. Everything that we are broadcasting on the main session is going to be available and recorded. So anything you say going to be used against you or for you. We ask that during the breakout rooms, people don't record what other people said. So to make it a safe place, we ask everyone right now to rename yourself. So your name, your firm, and your title. If you're hiring, please put an asterisk before your name so people who are looking can find you. If you are one of the watch parties, we ask you to put WP in the beginning. So when we go to breakout rooms, we know not to include you. And then if there's a chat, the chat in the Zoom is live all day, and people can ask questions and answer, and some of the presenters might not have enough time to answer all the questions, so they're going to continue doing it. We ask that when you ask a question, just write question in all caps, so the people who monitor the session will be able to find it. The polls, as I said, at the end of each one of the breakout rooms is gonna come up. We're gonna have a few seconds, just say 1 to 5 how useful it was for you. A reminder again, the broadcast rooms are not broadcasted. The breakout rooms are not broadcasted, so please make sure to keep it a safe space. When you go to a breakout room, turn on your camera, turn on your mic, start talking. We don't have time for a long introduction, so you could introduce you the first time you're speaking, who you are and what you do, but don't go into length. Focus on the topic of the conversations. Make sure that your camera and mic are on and start. And then post-conference, you could use the QR code. If you haven't already followed us on LinkedIn, that's the main way that we try to communicate when we try not to over email people. So a lot of conversation just happens on LinkedIn. We do email you when we have to. For the Zoom attendees, please remember to stay on mute until you have to, or if you have to talk. And without further ado, I am excited to invite Laura Safdie, Head of Innovation Legal at Thomson Reuters, who will be moderating the panel on how AI is reshaping the general counsel law firm relationships. So Laura, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Oz. I also did not realize there was a competition for best session, which is quite a lot of pressure on the moderator because I don't like to lose, but thank you for letting us know
Okay.
about that.
So it's only you're not, you're excluded. You're good.
Okay, thank you. We can just say I win by default. No, I am really excited to be here. Great to see everyone, people I know and people I'm looking forward to meet. I'm genuinely excited about our discussion today, which is titled The Next Chapter, How AI is Reshaping the General Counsel Law Firm Dynamic. And I'll introduce our panelists, but wanted to make a couple comments before we kick off. Each of these panelists are distinguished and bring a distinct perspective to this topic. We have Blake Rooney, who's the Chief Information Officer at Husch Blackwell. We have Amy Monahan, the Senior Counsel, Director of KM and AI Enablement for Policy and Legal Ops at Ford Motor Company. And Emily Colbert, the Head of Co-Counsel covering in her portfolio litigation and Westlaw at Thomson Reuters. The topic today is such a critical topic, and I love this format. We, as everyone here knows, we're living through a moment of enormous change in our profession. And so often I find that we discuss these evolving dynamics in either rooms of law firm leaders or rooms of in-house leaders or in legal tech founder and developer vortexes. But today we really want to discuss one of the most vital relationships in our profession, the relationship between client and counsel in a meaningful, honest way with representatives of all three sets of these stakeholders. On my end, I was at a firm, actually Oz's old firm, have been general counsel and was co-founder of Casetext, which merged with Thomson Reuters 2.5 years ago. So I have really seen both the challenges and opportunities from all sides. And I think having these conversations in this holistic, interconnected, transparent way is critical, not just for having a productive conversation, but really for the future of our profession. So without further ado, to start, I really want to level set where everyone on this panel is at in your AI journey. Because as we've all seen over the last couple of years, AI is really moving quickly from experimentation to embedded use. So in what ways have you deployed AI to date? And what near-term opportunities are you most excited about? And I kind of want to start with Blake, who we've worked with for some time now. What are some of your most impactful use cases that you've seen at Husch?
Thanks, Laura. I think in our case, it's interesting. We started this journey about 5 years ago with hiring our first two data scientists. And at the same time, we hired a couple of automation engineers. And what we first settled on was how do we find opportunities to automate work behind the scenes. So we've got a large portfolio of mass tort product liability work where there's massive amounts of background work that has to take place, and using the combination of artificial intelligence and robotic process automation for onboarding, for getting things into our conflict system, uh, getting everything set up from soup to nuts before our lawyers start work. That was kind of our initial use case, and one where we saw value, and it opened everyone's eyes inside the firm. I mean, there was no longer any questions about the value of this proposition once had kind of made it through that. But we've continued to find further automation opportunities, in addition to what we're doing with hands-on tools that we've got in the hands of our lawyers. We've had, I think, we may have been the first firm to sign after you came to work for Thomson Reuters, Laura. I think we were one of the, if not one of the very first firms to sign. So we've had co-counsel in the hands of our attorneys for 2.5 years.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Amy, on your end, how have you deployed AI within the legal department?
Yeah, so I'll start this with the caveat that we are very spoiled here at Ford, and we're quite, I think, still an outlier in the industry in the amount and breadth of AI tools that we have access to. Our journey started back in 2022 when we were actually one of the first legal departments to get our hands on Co-Counsel when it was still in beta and part of a small group that were using it. And that really did serve as our gateway drug for us to expand how we think about AI, and really enabled us to work with our internal tech and data science teams to start to develop other ways that we can deploy AI tools. How can we leverage the data that we have to build tools that we can get into the hands of our users? And then fast forward to now, we have access to all of the foundational models behind a Forward firewall. And so we're able to have on-demand AI use. We can spin up AI assistants on the fly. We can use deep research and AI notebook tools. So that's what I mean when I say that we're spoiled in the amount of tools that we have. But finding the right tool for the right problem is part of the journey that we're helping people on. And then my perspective, so I also come from many corners of the legal industry, most recently coming from a large law firm. And so I've seen AI deployed in very different ways, both within firms and across clients. And I have the a knowledge management innovation hat on at all times. So here at Forward, helping build up the knowledge management program, I'm so happy that I get to do it now, because building a KM program in the AI era is amazing. So I'm able to build an AI first postured KM program. It's a great time to be building a KM program. And we've partnered with some of our more forward-thinking firms on AI efforts, particularly ones where we are developing our own AI tools. And those firms are my favorite firms to work with, because they come with that collaboration mindset. They come with that creative, future AI first leaning perspective. And we really do expect our firms to come to us with those creative ideas and a collaborative spirit when it comes to helping us along our AI journey.
I love that you called that out, and I really should mention out the gate. The reason that Amy and Blake are here is because not just because you guys have been co-counsel, partners for such a long time, but just Forward and Hush have been among the most forward-looking, proactive, I would say, like creative partners that I've worked with as we're thinking about AI deployment. So you have a wealth of knowledge. I love that you called out the ways in which you collaborate with your firms on AI development. I know we can't talk too much about specific use cases, but can you give an example of like an A+ experience that you've been at? Don't even need to say the firm or the use case, but the best you can tell us, like, what does it look like when a firm comes in as a really strong partner and thinking through these opportunities?
Sure. Yeah, I can't go into specifics, but I've had several A+ experiences, thankfully, with several of our firms. I think, like, high level, the characteristics of why that is an A+ is we have attorneys, partners who are willing, they have an open mind and an open perspective. They're willing to think differently about how they work with us and work on our matters. They're willing to come in and work within our systems. They're willing to bring their broad experience and expertise working across industry and across clients and help us encapsulate those insights into our tools. And they help us test things and give us feedback of what's working, why it's not working, how we could potentially think about making these things better. So it's a more collaborative relationship, but it's also just a more open perspective and sort of like checking all of your hesitancies and biases at the door and just trying new things with us and learning along with us.
I will say, when I get to be involved in those conversations, those are the most fun days of work ever. Emily, I want to bring you in. In what have you seen? You've obviously consulted with dozens, probably hundreds of law firms since launching Co-Counsel and Westlaw Deep Research. I'm just wondering if you could share a bit about a couple deployments you've seen at firms that have been among the most impactful. Obviously, you don't need to say the firm's name.
And I also want to piggyback on what Amy said, because I mean, in terms of kind of deployments at law firms, where we've seen real success is where those use cases are identified, you're bringing the right tool to the right lawyers and having them see that value right away. But to piggyback, Amy, on what you were saying, it's a really exciting engagement when you have that innovation on both sides, but that's not always the case. And I think for, clients that are not as, you said spoiled, but are not as innovative or don't have the tool set or even the KM department that you have at Forward, I think there's a real opportunity, and we've seen real success for those law firms that show up as that not just collaborator, but innovation partner and leader, because a lot of our larger law firms have innovation departments, innovation lawyers. They've done the testing, they've looked at the array of tools. And when they can show up in an engagement and suggest these are the use cases and this is how we'll bring AI in and this is how we'll help you learn kind of what's out there and what can help you. That to me has been, as exciting, Laura, as when you just have everyone at the same spot and the same time. And so I think that's something I hope people take away from today, kind of the opportunities presents to deliver value in different ways and to show up differently in those engagements.
100%. That kind of takes us down to the meat of our topic, then, evolving relationship between clients and their firms and evolving client expectations. Blake, I wonder if you could share a little bit about what you're hearing from clients about their expectations of the firms and its attorneys.
Sure. When I look back 3 years ago, when we kind of headed off on the substantive part of the generative AI journey, there was a fair amount of pushback, right? I mean, in outside counsel guidelines, there was a lot of requests to not use artificial intelligence in performing work for certain clients, and it was quite frequent. And whenever we saw that, we always wanted to initiate a conversation, right? Help them understand what we're doing to protect their data, that we're not, this isn't the wild, wild west. We've got controls in place and we're trying to do the right things here. And, that generally worked. We had some situations where we've agreed to disagree on it and not touch their work with artificial intelligence tools. But now we're seeing it go in a completely different direction. So as we're engaging with clients and responding to RFPs, we're kind of giving them a detailed understanding of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how we can drive value for them. That's gone very well, and in a couple of cases, follow up on an RFP where they come to us and say, give us some specific places where you think you can drive value for us, and we've demonstrated some capabilities that we've got, and we're now starting to take work in some cases from other firms that are clients of these same organizations. So we're really starting to see positive impact from it. I think it's there's a lot of kind of show me right now, right? I mean, they want to really see it. I mean, there's been a lot of talk for the last few years, so they want to really understand how it's happening, and they want some transparency on it. We've seen that a lot. I was at a legal event at Microsoft last year where they talked about this idea of, we want transparency. We want to understand what you're doing and how you're doing it and how it's driving value for us. And we want to move away from billable hour towards fixed fees, because we know that's at this point it's in both sides' benefit, but it's a way different conversation today.
You kind of alluded to this, but are you starting to see the fact that you have been so proactive about your AI deployments being a bit of a competitive advantage or differentiator for the firm?
Absolutely. And when I look back as the CIO of a law firm 5 years ago, I didn't spend a lot of time with clients, but it's pretty much every week at this point where I'm having conversations with clients. I was one large client asked me to go to Florida last Friday and speak to their leadership committee. So we're starting to see a lot of those kind of opportunities where they want to understand how we're innovating, what it means, and how they can learn from us. So it's gone beyond kind of sales engagement sort of things where they really want to learn from us. And it's a tremendous thing. We love it.
Well, let's hear about it from the client side then. Amy, can you share a little bit about how your expectations of firms have evolved? In what ways have AI kind of changed how you're thinking about the law firm client relationship at Ford?
Yeah, sure. I mean, similar to what Blake was talking about that he's seeing across their clients. So our outside counsel guidelines specifically call out that, we support the use of AI. We need to be informed. We need you to do all the things that you're supposed to do, protect our data. If you want to use our data to train any of your models, we have to give you consent first. Like we have all of those nuts and bolts covered, but we are very pro using AI as long as we see benefit and more value. So if you are leveraging AI tools and you are experiencing efficiencies, we want to see those gains reflected in the way that you are billing us. We also want to have open conversations. I would love to geek out with people if you're finding creative and new ways to leverage AI tools, not even new AI tools, even existing ones, and you found, like clever, creative ways that you can use them. Would love to hear about that, particularly how you're finding ways to provide us with even more value with these tools. We definitely want to have conversations about that. We expect our firms to have open communication about how they're using Gen AI tools. We want them to be proactive. We want them to be creative and learn, and we want them to come and share their learnings with us. And we have seen our firms invite us in and talk. They want us to share how we are using AI. We share our expectations of firms and their use of AI. But sometimes it seems more performative than real. Like, check, we invited the client in to talk about how they want us to use AI and how they use AI, and now we can go about and do things the way we always have done. And that's just not going to fly. We want people who are going to put action behind words and listen to us and then back it up with their own deployment, use, and value-driven use of AI for us.
I think that's such an important call out, performative versus something that's more real. And what you both have described, the kind of collaborative, creative applications is obviously quite different than just checking a box. I'm wondering, you guys kind of before we move on to Emily, you both alluded to the billing model, and you mentioned AFA billing, Blake. I wonder if you guys could speak a little bit to, it's the billion-dollar question. How much and when are we shifting away from billable hour? What are you seeing from your vantage points about AFA or alternative billing arrangements, and where's the trend headed? Maybe start with Blake.
I think we all know that it's headed in that direction. I think there's kind of a mutual discomfort with the idea of it at this point. There are places where we offer it, and then at the last minute, the client says, let's just go by the hour. They kind of shift back in that direction. Honestly, one of the things that we've done on our data science team, we have a data scientist whose title is data scientist law firm economics. And his role is just to understand this problem, right? I mean, it's not just how we bill our clients, but it's how we compensate our partners. It's an end-to-end economic problem that we've got to solve for. So we're spending a lot of time kind of, we're not guessing, right? When we put an alternative fee arrangement in place, we're trying not to guess. We're actually putting, work behind this. We're studying past work, seeing patterns in that work and trying to do the best job that we can of make sure that we're being accurate and making sure that we're driving value for the client, but also for the firm. So that's been, ultra important to us just to understand this issue better. And that's a huge focus for us in 2026 is to, move towards more alternative fee arrangements, but also understand, what the impact of this over the next 3 to 5 years has on our partners and how they're paid. So everybody's, it's top of mind for everyone at this point. In the beginning, it was, the topic we don't discuss, but now it's, it's in the spotlight for us for sure.
So I agree, it's an end-to-end economic issue, like that there's firms can't solve it alone, clients can't solve it alone.
The intro.
Be a collaborative endeavor.
The initial credit.
Oh,
Sorry, I think one of the audience could go on mute, please. That'd be great. Thank you. Go ahead, Amy.
Yeah. So I am jealous that you have an economic data scientist. That is amazing. I think foundationally it boils down to a data problem and then an attitude problem. So do we have the requisite amount of data to start to adequately scope and price how work should be done? And then do we have the appropriate perspective, behaviors, and attitudes coming to the table to have those conversations? And I don't know that we're quite there yet on either front. I don't think we have good good quality and the amount of data to look, across entire portfolios. And I don't think that we have a quorum on the attitude and perspectives that are needed to have those conversations. I think we're seeing it in pockets, and hopefully that will lead to more momentum and we'll have a domino effect there. And then the data can come in and really back up those conversations and drive the change in those models.
I want to bring in Emily. You're as close as anyone to the state of the technology and where it's going. What about where the tech and solutions are going can provide us some signal about how this relationship will evolve over time?
Yeah, and I mean, as everyone said, this has been sort of that sore subject, that hot topic for, I don't know, maybe 10 years now. And I think what Amy said is spot on is we haven't had the data. And when people did enter those relationships without the data and predictability, it was very uncomfortable, and you ended up with things like AFA with ghost billing. And that's not fun for anybody. I think we're on a journey. And so I would say today there's going to be certain tasks that in just the past, 12, 18 months have become more predictable with AI. And so when you think about things like document analysis and a specific tasks that you have the data you can start to predict. I think what we're seeing with the technology that's interesting is it's moving so fast. And with what's been coming out in even the last kind of 3 to 6 months with some of the new agentic technology, we're really seeing the types of work, the types of tasks, the type of workflows that can be done with AI really moving up the chain, still requiring attorney involvement and attorney oversight. And so I think that's the place that we're really going to still grow, is how do we understand what that engagement looks like, what the work is, and then how do we predict what that type of kind of verification advisory work comes to look like. And I think, we're pretty excited at Thomson Reuters. We have some opportunities with we have some kind of in-house counsel expense software that we use today. And so we're looking at how might we integrate that into our products to help provide kind of ROI data to help solve that problem. And so that's something that we're excited about on our 2026 roadmap. But I think it's a place to watch. I think everyone's right. It's moving in that direction. And the question will be how quickly, how holistically.
That's right. Something I should have mentioned way at the beginning is there's a way to submit questions in chat. I have enough to keep us going for 3 hours probably, but if anyone has a particular question you want us to try to get to, definitely add it. So all of you, I think, alluded to, this process of moving up the value chain as our deployments become more sophisticated and our workflows evolve. But success with AI is as much about, effective rollout and change management as the tools themselves. So I wanted to hear a bit about how Blake, your firm, and Amy, your department, have focused on kind of expanding and deepening your use and just change management in general. Blake, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. In the case at our firm, I mean, we've spent a lot of time kind of doing sort of organic training with people, trying, lunch and learns, a lot of different forums where we get opportunities to get in front of our attorneys. A couple of years ago, the chair of the firm at the time pulled me aside and said, we're in this situation right now where you're way out in front and the lawyers need to catch up. So let's get to work on that. So, it's been a journey. And, as we move into 2026, we're, greatly expanding our knowledge management team. We're bringing in a role that we've had for a couple of years called an AI solution strategist. That is, we parachute those people in at the right moment, and they decide whether it's something, okay, we can help with the tools that are on our attorney's desktop. We can help them solve this problem themselves. We can teach them how to fish. But it also sets us up where if it's something that the technology team or the data science team can help solve for, we bring that back to the nest and we're able to do that. So we've got this level of comfort now with our attorneys where they come to us with challenges constantly. We see new things every week that we didn't anticipate, where we're able to drive value for our clients. Adoption continues to, we're doing well, but we're not where I would hope we would be at this point. We're continuing to push for more of that. And frankly, as I was talking to one of our attorneys who's involved in our partner compensation process, and they're seeing AI related goals in our partners' 2026 plans that haven't been there in prior years. So I think 2026 will be a breakthrough year, but it will be an exercise for sure in change management and how we continue to make people more comfortable with the technology, help them understand how to drive value and how to have conversations with their clients about it, frankly.
And I'm curious, how often is the client's interest in AI informing or not informing how your lawyers are thinking about it? I know you're thinking about these issues and how AI deployments affect the client relationship all the time, but are your lawyers thinking in those terms?
They are, absolutely. And frankly, at this point, because the reputation that we built as being innovative and doing a lot of different things, we're actually standing up a separate consulting practice that's owned by the firm that will advise clients on AI governance and strategy. We won't do the project for them, but we'll help them understand, go through product selection processes, how to set the right strategies, the right policies, and how to govern this going forward. And we're getting a lot of good traction with our clients in that process as well.
That's great. Amy, I've seen Ford's top-down focus on AI from basically day one, but I'm curious how you could speak to, you have a large legal department. How are you managing change management?
Yeah, and we did a reorg about a year and a half ago. So we are now we're all under the policy organization. So we went from a few hundred to over 1,200 people, and our team has taken on AI training across the policy organization. So that's a lot of people. We did have a goal in 2025 to have 100% adoption, and we met that actually pretty early on in 2025, which is a really nice, impressive statistic to say. But that was not without a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from the policy ops team. We did over 70 trainings last year. I stopped counting at 70 because after that, it was like, okay, well, that's impressive. We're trying to meet people where they're at. So similar to Blake's journey, it started organically, and then we put a program wrapper around it. So we were offering regular 101, 201, and 301 sessions. We would have those scheduled monthly. A lot of times that would transition into, oh, I have this XYZ problem or idea that I would love to work on. Can you come and do a one-off training? So absolutely, we would do that. We would go to different skill teams or practice teams and tailor trainings for them. One of our more popular workshops became this BYOP, Bring Your Own Problem workshop. And that I've seen that be really impactful, that peer-to-peer learning where people just come and they're learning like, oh, you're working through this. These are the tools that you're trying. I have some ideas. Let me help you with this, guided by our team, because we can help people with tool selection, prompt refinement. Maybe you need an assistant for this. Maybe you need to transition to more of agentic AI for this. But though learning from each other has been really, really, really impactful. And then that allows word of mouth to spread. And then more and more people are interested in learning about what options they have here to help solve their problems. So we're going to continue. We'll continue to do our more formal program-based learnings. And also we'll continue to do the individual and small group touch points, because I think it's really important to get people when they have momentum behind them, when they have something that is pressing and they need to have a result. I think that's the best way to get people learning, and then they can go and teach other people.
Totally agree. At the very beginning of this, Oz alluded to the importance of the technologists and solution developers staying really, really close to both in-house legal teams and law firms. And it's obviously something, can't totally lost count how many firms and in-house teams Emily and I have been at in the last couple of years. But I was thinking, Emily, this might be a good time to share a bit about Thomson Reuters' vision for the future of an AI-enabled legal profession and kind of the future of co-counsel as you see it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, in terms of staying close, that's been critically important. And building up our customer success arm has been a huge priority for Thomson Reuters. And so we've invested lots of people and funds in over the last couple of years. And that's been a good way to really stay close. In terms of the future, I mean, I see the technology is just getting more and more powerful, allowing us to be more flexible. But our vision is really to ensure that with that, we're bringing kind of the trust, the comfort, that this is, what you can rely on to get your legal work done, and helping through the product our users understand what they can do. And so that's been a big focus to date. As we go forward, we're also really thinking about the client relationship between the law firm and the client. And as the technology gets more and more advanced, as we go up the chain with the type of work, AI essentially becomes a part of your team. And so when we think about what co-counsel becomes, we see co-counsel as becoming a true teammate and a teammate that works across law firms and in-house counsel. And so as part of that, product-wise collaboration gets incredibly important. And with that, comes the requisite necessary privacy and security elements that are critical to that. And that's, some of you know, that's something that we have a product in the market called HiQ that we've, been working, kind of decades around that type of client collaboration. But this is going to be a real good pivot point for us to apply that into CoCounsel and really think about how we can bring that client-side collaboration into the day-to-day work of using AI products. And so I really do see, Laura, when I think about the ultimate vision, obviously part of that is where the agentic technology is going, how powerful everything is. But to me, it's really about the AI solutions becoming that core part of the legal team.
That's right. Speaking of the legal team, what we haven't talked about yet is attorney development and hiring. And I wanted to bring this up because I think this is kind of such an under-discussed component of the client law firm relationship. Blake, I wonder if you could share a bit about how you see the training process changing, when junior lawyers no longer spend years doing doc review and diligence.
So, over the last 6 months, I've talked to a couple of times with groups of law school deans about this issue, and I'm seeing some very positive things in that aspect. So about 90% of the firms that I talked to had a formal AI training program that at least was their last year of law school. So we see that as a very promising thing. We're still kind of we're looking at this as there's an expanding playing field. There's going to be more legal work because we're so innovative. So, we're not shrinking the size of our fall associate classes. So that's continuing to expand. We're having to be more creative in how we give them opportunities to understand the technology and sorry about that, and how to continue to grow as the typical the historical things that were used to train young associates kind of get automated away. So we're coming up with some new ways of doing it. We're seeing some promising new tools in the marketplace. Things that can simulate a deposition. You can tell the system that an overly aggressive opposing counsel and an evasive witness, and it will give you it will put you into that deposition and let you do those do that work and understand how to do that. And that's been a big concern from, I went to a group of our partners and had a conversation with them and said, what more do you want from young attorneys, related to artificial intelligence? And they said, well, before we talk about that, we need better writers. So that was always my initial message to the law school deans was they want that problem solved. But then going from understanding the law to understanding how to be a lawyer, and can they front end load more of that inside the law school, and then from our perspective, how can we do more with this? We're jealous of what Ropes and Gray announced. 40% of their first year associates hours are dedicated to learning artificial intelligence, and I think all law firms are headed in that direction where that's just an imperative over that first year.
Yes, totally agree with that. Amy, what do you expect from your firms in terms of junior attorney preparedness, and what is the role of the client in that training, if any?
Yeah, so we want our firms to become very familiar with our business so they can more effectively serve us, like just full stop. That is our expectation. And that extends to the junior lawyers that are working on our matters. So anything that firms can do to help younger attorneys develop that business ready guidance and work product is our expectation. And I agree. I think AI can certainly help with this. I think AI can serve as a coach, as a mentor, as a teacher, mock negotiations, mock depositions. But I think that it requires firms and the partners of the firm to really take a leading role in helping to develop and deploy those tools and guide the younger attorneys in their learnings with that, because there's still things that are locked in partners' heads that are going to be extremely hard to get out and into an AI tool. And so it really does need to be almost back to an apprenticeship type model. As firms are helping their younger lawyers along their AI journey, they also need to have their partners on that same journey as well. And I do think that there is a huge responsibility on the law firms to plant the foundation and lay the seeds of a different way of thinking about being a lawyer in the AI era. And I know there's a few great programs out there that are doing it. We actually have a colleague of mine, Whitney. She teaches at ASU. She teaches about artificial intelligence. I know Georgetown has a great program. So there are are various schools that are doing this. I'd like to see that across the board in all of the law schools. And it's not just learning the technology, it's learning to think about how you're going to do the work in a different way. And it really is creative problem solving, thinking about the nature of work differently, and being more data oriented and data focused, because we're still going to need lawyers of all shapes, sizes, and kinds. I agree. I think that the amount of legal work is going to expand. It's not going to shrink. But I think that it's going to require lawyers to be more context oriented and more data oriented, because they're going to need to ingest and absorb even more data than I can even fathom right now. And you can't do that just with your brain alone. You're going to need AI tools to do that. And I really want law schools to start teaching how to do that.
It's actually an area I'm very focused on right now, is how do we empower law schools to be having those very conversations. We have a question from the audience I want to bring in before my wrap question, from Eric. Intellectual property, and specifically patent application drafting and prosecution, is arguably one of the most established and common places that AFAs have been used. What lessons have firms and in-house teams learned from this experience with AFAs that can be applied on a wider basis in the current environment? Amy or Blake, can either of you speak to patents specifically?
I can't. I don't have that much experience in that area.
Or other areas where you're seeing AFAs as more widely accepted or established.
So I think that goes back to my comment about we need good data. I suspect that, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I suspect that particularly with patent review, that is more formulaic. You know every single phase and component that is going into that work. And so you can have data to accurately scope and price every single component of that. I think it's a lot harder with different types of work that are more fluid, and you're not able to systematize and sort of operationalize that. I think we'll get there. I think that the sort of like shape of legal work is going to change, and the more almost treating it like a product, the more productized that work becomes, then you can have the right amount of data to accurately scope every single aspect of how that work is serviced, and then you can start to do more value-based billing. So I suspect that that's probably why that area has seen more success with AFAs. And I'm hopeful that as we change the shape and nature of work, and more work moves into that sort of like middle core layer, that we will be able to approach that in more of a product way and price it in a more value-based, productized way.
Thank you. Blake, any thoughts?
Ask me again in 6 months. It's something that we've spent a lot of time over the last 90 days looking at, as patent drafting in particular, and we're making some decisions right now, and we're headed down that road. So we'll know more about it in the near future. Yes, it's often usually on a fixed fee, so we get it. So we've spent some hours on that, but we'll know more in a few months. More to come.
I love that everything we're talking about is all real time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of the fun of it. Okay, we're going to do a rapid fire last question from the audience, and then I want to wrap with a couple comments. Earlier, Amy mentioned having those constructive conversations with outside law firms. Do they normally tend to be with law firm partners, innovation teams? Like, who's at the table?
Yes, all of the above. It depends on the firm. Thankfully, partners are coming. There are obviously firms are all different. Firms with much larger KM and innovation teams, the smarter ones are bringing those folks into the conversation. It's still very partner driven. I mean, we're still in a very relationship based field, right? And so it's going to take, someone on the client side talking to their relationship partner, and that relationship partner connecting the dots back to the firm and getting the right people at the table. So yeah, it really depends on the firm. It depends on who on our side is initiating the conversations on our end. But thankfully, I'm seeing a good mix of partners, and then also innovation and KM professionals at the table.
Great. And Blake, I know on your end, you and your team have been brought into RFPs more than ever before, right?
Absolutely. And we've a fair number of clients have had legal department retreats, and they've asked us to come in and spend an hour with them and kind of talk about some of the things that we're doing. And we love doing that. a lot of phone calls. There's actually one good client of the firm that I've spoken to their board of directors 2 years in a row about our innovation capabilities and how we're doing things. It's did I think 3 to 5 years ago that sort of thing would be happening? No, absolutely not. But we're seeing it a lot now, and the board, I'm sure I'll be back there again, in 2 or 3 months, having that same conversation. But they want to know what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we're impacting our business. So it's a big part of what we do.
So thank you. I see Nick here, which means like the Golden Globes music is happening in the background, but I really want to just take a second because on these types of conversations, we cover so much ground. I took some notes on what I thought the 5 takeaways were from my perspective of this conversation. Just so if you're keeping track, I thought it was critically important, the point of avoiding performative AI, bringing real use cases, real cognizable value to clients, and I would add real metrics. That's incredibly powerful. I'd flag a comment that the A+ client experiences are when firms collaborate with the client on opportunities to use AI on their matters to solve the client's specific problems. On change management and adoption, we said that we need to get to the users when they have a pressing problem. This isn't just AI for the sake of AI, but how do teams actually get in there and solve those problems? Blake Gray is such a great example of the AI strategy team coming in and helping lawyers figure out how to use the tools they have or to obtain other tools to help solve an issue. On attorney development, I thought it was such a critical point that attorneys, even juniors, need to be ready with business acumen and knowledge of the client's business, and that AI can help on training. And finally, just to highlight for all the nihilists or people who are deeply concerned about the future of our profession, Amy thinks at least that there are going to be more lawyers, more legal work, more data, not less, and our law firms aren't going anywhere. I totally agree with that. So thank you so much. O's to the opportunity, Emily, Blake, and Amy for the amazing conversation. And Nick, I think I'll hand it to you at this point.
Fantastic. Thank you, Laura, and thanks, Amy and Blake and Emily as well. So I'm here to take us through to the next section. So my name is Nick Pryor, Director of Knowledge and Innovation at Free. So I'm going to be chairing 3 spotlight sessions for today's showcase entitled From Hype to Habits, Operationalizing AI in Legal Practice. So giving us 3 different perspectives from top tier firms on how they're adopting AI in support of their KM and legal service delivery. So we'll start with Christina from Cozen & O'Connor in collaboration with Deep Judge. So without further ado, let's roll the VT.
Hi, I'm Christina Bakardiev, the Director of Legal Practice Innovation at Cozen O'Connor.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yannick. I'm co-founder and CTO at Deep Judge.
We're all energized about what large language models can do. Ask a smart question, get a smart, useful answer. But there's a hard truth. Generic AI doesn't know our firm. It doesn't know our matters, our clients, our deal history, or how our lawyers practice within their own groups. It can't answer the vital questions lawyers really care about, like, have we negotiated this before? What is the client's preference? Have we litigated this before? Who does this regulation affect? What position have we taken in the past? What position have our experts taken in the past? What position have judges taken? And the firm-specific context, the thing that actually creates value, lives across our ecosystem. The DMS, SharePoint, billing, our internal knowledge bases, and our emails, and dozens of other systems, all disparate and disconnected. In legal AI, retrieval is what actually matters more than anything else. If the right knowledge can't be surfaced at the right moment, everything downstream breaks, no matter how powerful the language model actually is. That's why here at Cozen O'Connor, we've focused less on individual tools and more on building a future-proof AI strategy, which is tied to good data, not tied to just one model or one use case. And our lawyers are very clear about what they want. AI that knows what the firm knows.
What Deep Judge provides is a shared AI platform for law firms, a foundation that combines enterprise-grade knowledge search with flexible, customizable workflows. It's about assembling one platform that practice groups can build on, while the firm retains control over security, compliance, and data governance. DeepJudge fundamentally connects to all internal knowledge systems of firms, be that structured or unstructured systems, and combines them into a singular unified search index that maintains all data governance that's already in place. On top of that index, we can then provide enormous amounts of value. We can let everybody in the firm have access in a secure way to the entire knowledge of the firm, all the expertise, all the precedent, all the internal know-how. But it doesn't stop at users. We can also go further and give this knowledge to AI agents, to custom workflows, and to other applications. So this is a unified one-stop shop for the entire knowledge of the firm, distributed in a compliant way, in a secure way, in a way that maintains governance, access control, and data privacy.
What's especially exciting for us is that this approach doesn't just unlock efficiency use cases. It also enables workflows that directly support business development and firm strategy. And one example that we can think of is RFPs, or requests for proposals. These are non-billable tasks that lawyers have to do all the time, and speed in getting them to the clients matters and wins business.
This is a great segue, because what we have done is we have built a custom workflow that specifically helps firms in quickly responding to requests for proposals. Here you see me uploading the RFP. In this case, I have an RFP for a patent infringement case to this workflow. I don't have to write an extensive prompt or anything like this. I just have to upload the RFP, and the workflow is configured to handle the rest for me. What the workflow does is it in-depth analyzes this RFP and determines all the requirements necessary in order to respond to it. It then goes to our search engine and it retrieves the most relevant precedent, the most relevant past work that the firm has done in order to demonstrate their expertise in all the relevant criteria. All of this is grounded in the firm's past work, and it gives you a first draft of a response complete with all citations to the relevant work. This means that marketing teams can go from taking days or even weeks to respond to these RFPs because they have to go dig around and collect together all the data, down to mere hours or even minutes before you can turn it around and win business.
I mean, the key lesson here for us is that AI-driven workflows can move high-value ideas from backlog to practice by automating the bridge between search and execution, something we haven't had in the past. Over time, everyone will have access to the same public information and the same large language models. What truly differentiates law firms is context, the treasure trove of institutional knowledge that they're sitting on, and the way that we work individually with our clients. We chose DeepJudge because it is the only AI platform built on modern enterprise search. That foundation allows the firm to surface the right knowledge at the right moment and to use it reliably across workflows. And we are in a race for context. Better data means better results for our lawyers and our clients.
Christina, thanks so much for joining us today.
Same.
What an entrance.
There we go. The life and work happen together. Hi, Christina, and thank you so much for your video. Really appreciate that. It's a really great session and a great insight. So we've got a few minutes to just talk through it a little bit. I guess one of the things I was reflecting on watching it is that kind of one of the classic and evergreen challenges in KM is the huge effort to kind of establish, enforce, apply a taxonomy onto your proprietary knowledge, and obviously part of the hope for LLMs is that they expedite the process. Do you know, is that what DeepJudge is doing in the background? Is it applying a taxonomy to the documents, or is kind of part of the premise that it just bypasses that entirely? It can find stuff based on semantic analysis and understanding without needing to apply a kind of a rigorous taxonomy.
Well, I'm finding it goes both ways. So when I can't find something through its regular search protocols and filters, I can work the other way. I can come at it from their workflows and ask it to find an answer. And so sometimes I need that flexibility, as you know. It works both as a search engine on the front end and an LLM on the back end. And between the two, it's almost impossible not to find what you need.
Fantastic, and that's brilliant. And Paulina, thank you so much for joining us as well from the Deep Judge team. Is there anything? As a second question, is there anything you wanted to add on that as well, in particular about the approach that's happening under the hood to help in defining and understanding what it's looking for?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, hi everyone. I'm Paulina. I'm Yannick's co-founder and the CEO of Deep Judge. The question was about whether Deep Judge is applying taxonomy in the background. The main thing about Deep Judge is that it's built on top of a foundation that is an enterprise search. And the whole art of an enterprise search is which results you rank at the top. And there's a lot of magic that goes into how you're ranking the results. One thing is obviously the content of the query and the content of the document. Then we put it into context of the whole universe that the firm has. So this means we tie it to other systems like time and billing, to the meta intake system, to other repositories of data, which gives us data about the data or additional metadata that adds additional color. There's a lot more that goes into the ranking system, and one of that is also taxonomies. So it's very important in the context of a law firm when you're searching for something to understand whether you're searching for a licensing agreement or a letter of intent or something else. So what Deep Judge does as part of the ranking process, it also classifies every single document internally as to what type of document it is. And we use a taxonomy that is aligned largely with Sally. And then we use that as a ranking signal or as a filter to determine the right result on top.
Fantastic. That's enormously helpful. Thank you very much. And I guess there's sort of a follow-up question for that. And by the way, the poll has just come up for people to vote on the session. So whilst we just go through our last question called the pace of skills, one more question for the team. So you were talking about finding the right knowledge at the right time, and I'm always interested in that kind of editorial curation angle. So obviously not everything that's available and relevant is necessarily useful or high quality. So how do you see AI helping you with challenges like dealing with multiple drafts or versions and making sure that we're actually getting the right content we really want?
Yeah, another great question, and again, one that goes towards the art of ranking results. We find that recency really matters when ranking results. So there's a lot that goes into that, right? We take a lot of signals. So recent results are more towards the top. Then we also understand by connecting to the different system who's the author of the document. Usually people prefer documents that might be written by a partner that are used more frequently or written more recently. So there's just a lot that goes into that. But obviously there's a whole element of understanding what are the versions, understanding what are executed versions and what are red lines. So we also classify documents into that. We also group duplicates and near duplicates so that you can kind of screen through the results more easily.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Thank you both so much. I'd love to spend a bit more time and ask a bit more about it, but time is where it's at. So we'll pass on to the next session. So this comes from the team at Ballard Spot, who are going to present to you on their Ask Ellis platform. So over to the video.
Many firms rely on mainstream AI tools like Copilot, but these solutions often have limitations in customization and integration options. To level set, we looked at the free version of Copilot. Since earlier in our AI journey, Copilot was an all or nothing subscription. In essence, we could leverage their ChatGPT, but only if we were willing to play in their sandbox.
When we looked at buy versus build for a generic ChatGPT assistant, we decided to build. Here's why. With our own internal assistants, we could do the following. Leverage any large language model in ChatGPT available in AI Foundry. We didn't want users sitting staring at a blank screen, so it was important to us to leverage streaming. We wanted to incorporate pre-built prompts so our users didn't have to worry about being expert prompt engineers. We wanted to leverage a variety of generative AI assistants, an option that was only available with Copilot M365. We wanted flexibility in chat history retention or the option to have no retention at all. And we wanted flexibility in the ability to schedule updates, test new features before deployment, and avoid forced changes that could disrupt workflows.
The result was our custom ChatGPT, Ask Ellis, named after one of the founders of Ballard Spar. Ask Ellis is a homegrown generative AI suite of tools we use to automate routine tasks to enhance efficiency and productivity. Built on our secure Microsoft Azure platform, Ask Ellis offers 7 assistants, with more planned and in development, that allow our firm to work more efficiently. Chat, draft, and analyze for comparison or summarization were our initial tools.
Draft, an advanced assistant that transforms raw data from CSV or Excel files into visual representations, including pie charts and bar graphs. Image offers deeper insights into illustrations with rich descriptions of images, diagrams, including patent-related ones, drawings, and paintings. Deposition, for deposition summarization, issues analysis, timelines, and flagging for inconsistencies. And text-to-speech, to verbalize long emails or documents.
Going behind the scenes, our custom AI assistants and tools are built on a modular 4-pillar ecosystem. Azure AI LLM models are the brain. External APIs like S&P, Bloomberg, or Grounded with Bing for real-time intelligence. Our internal data warehouse for institutional knowledge, and Power BI for visualization. This API-first architecture scales seamlessly across our 3 usage tiers, from Ask Ellis daily productivity tools at the first usage tier, to our custom larger scale document search and chat tool, Ballard X-Ray, at the second usage tier, to enterprise scale research solutions at our 3rd usage tier. Behind the scenes, we built the kind of comprehensive infrastructure users never see. For example, our custom endpoint converting documents of diverse types like PDFs, Word, image, OCR, and audio to Markdown. Vectors are used for rapid retrieval, session data for context continuity, and intelligent management of the context window limitations and token rate limits are used across all models. Each component works independently, yet integrates seamlessly, allowing us to add capabilities or swap out models without rebuilding.
We learned a variety of lessons in building out our custom assistants. First, start with a low-cost private solution to get your users acclimated to using generative AI. This will reduce ongoing costs when compared to paying for premium cloud services at scale. Second, leverage the LLMs that are most appropriate in each of your custom assistants. Those with more complex use cases should leverage newer models, while simpler tasks can leverage older or smaller mini models.
In terms of costs, budget for your estimated spend. As adoption of your custom tools increases, so will your usage fees. Enlist your community as part of the development lifecycle. Once your users are more comfortable using generative AI, they will start to come to you with pre-built prompt suggestions and ideas for additional AI assistance.
And finally, we recommend designing with a modular approach. Technical complexity demands a thoughtful architecture. An agentic approach has helped us address this with intelligent model and prompt switching. Most critically, we learned that great AI tools hide their complexity. Users see simple interfaces while sophisticated, multi-step processes run behind the scenes.
Fantastic. Thanks very much to the team. And I think I've got Jason from Ballard Spore will be joining me on the video in just a minute. Hopefully he's listening in and can join us. Whilst I wait, just another prompt and reminder, if anybody's got any questions, to come into the chat. Jason, hi there. How are you doing?
How's it going?
There we go. Fantastic. Thanks, Jason. Thank you for the session. Really appreciate the insight into Ask Ellis, and this, along with actually the next session, are both thoughtful contributions to this ongoing classic kind of buy versus build debate and the assessment that you guys went through. And of course, one of the things that certainly I found hard, and I'm sure others find hard at the moment, is weighing those options with the current pace of innovation. Weighing them up is incredibly challenging. Some of the advantages of your proprietary approach will definitely endure. And as somebody who's been trying to roll out Copilot, which is constantly changing the interface and the way it works, everything you were saying there about having some control over releases, education will definitely endure. But obviously, we've also got Microsoft saying Copilot will be the UI for AI. They're obviously investing big. So how do you guys see the vision for Ask Ellis? Do you think it will always be a binary choice, or are you thinking about a blended landscape where you have a different set of tools and use them in a complementary fashion? Perhaps you could give us a bit more of an insight as to what other AI tools you might be looking at or using it as a complement.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually are about to roll out our second version of Ask Ellis, which is a complete redesign from the initial kind of framework and frame up to meet a lot more of the business needs, to address what the first presentation was talking about, was that workflow. We actually have a lot of proprietary tools now that are just using AI to kind of address and kind of help assist with the kind of the cost advantage, the speed advantage of things that are just really routine that can be kind of sped up. So without being able to kind of go into detail on a lot of those types of tools that we're actually in development with, you can definitely understand that AI is really starting to kind of hit the ground and really speed up a lot of the productivity that we're starting to enjoy in cost savings. So Copilot, we definitely see a use for it. Obviously, Microsoft's going to make us use it, whether we like it or not. It's just the nice thing about having your own homegrown is that you're not really limited by what they decide to give you, and if they decide to change things. And also there's limitations. You know, we've also seen that if you give it a lot of documents, it can really, you know, take some time to re-index or get confused with some of the content. So with our homegrown solutions, we are now really in control of that. So happy to go into a lot of detail, but I'm trying to, as you know, not as technical.
No, absolutely. No, very, very much appreciate that. And that sort of actually does touch on one of the other points I wanted to bring up. You were talking in the presentation about one of the attributes being flexibility in model picking and all the rest of it. And again, it's an area where Copilot used to be very rigid. It's got a bit more flexibility now and is a bit more dynamic in model choices, but it's definitely an area where you've got full freedom and control. And you were talking about the costs as well. Interested in how you think about model selection. You know, I know GPT 3.5 now equivalent performance costs like something like 1/280th of what it did a couple of years ago. So costs come down, new frontier models. Do you see that as an important part of your engineering decision process for the future? Or do you think sort of model selection will become a bit of a sort of hidden implementation detail or an abstraction?
Probably the latter, but the way we're using it is kind of like how the partners push things down to the attorney. We're kind of using models that same way. If a model is capable of performing something, for example, like a summarization of a document, it doesn't need to be comprehensive. I just need a paragraph to tell me about a document, just overall what that document is, and kind of abstract away from possibly the DMS kind of, you know, numbering schema that it puts in there. That's an easy thing I can push down, save a lot of money on, and not really use a sledgehammer to put a nail into a board, right? So we have about 7 models that we use strategically for different things. Obviously, like when you talk about text to speech, right? We have models that are kind of low level that do a great job of that without having to spend a lot of money. So we kind of use an agentic process to determine intent. And also we also intercept from the users what they're asking, and we can push things down to the most affordable model that can solve that task.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. I got time for one super quick question in the last minute whilst the poll is up. So just looking in there. Well, if we can take 2 super quick fire ones. Greg Lambert was asking you about, do you have mobile access for these tools? And the second one was trying to get a sense of what your operational support is around Ask Ellis when we're thinking about the build versus buy, what your kind of operational support around that looks like.
Sure. And I did see a couple other questions pop up. We definitely have Harvey, and we have a couple of our Vincent, Silo. We have the other AI tools. Those are the big players in the market for kind of the larger scale kind of document repository. We just we save money with the entry level, kind of that first level, second level of using a lot of the administrative cost and the cost savings that we have with our proprietary build. We have a 2-person team right now. I saw that question. We're really good at what we do, so we are capable of like handling that right now. But obviously, we'd love more people. We just got to get a budget for it. So
fantastic, brilliant, Jason. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate that. Thanks for your time in the session today. And we'll pass over to the third and final in this series of spotlights. So for this one, I'm delighted to introduce a discussion between Hannah Canning at DLA and Majed Helmi from Nucade AI.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Canning, and I'm the head of legal tech and knowledge management at DLA Piper in Sweden. We are, of course, a global full-service law firm, and we're the only global law firm with full representation in the Nordic region.
Thanks, Hannah. Hi, everyone. My name is Majid Halmi. I'm the CEO and founder of NewCode AI. We're a company that gives forward-thinking firms a competitive edge through agentic AI and bespoke intelligent workflows.
Today, we're going to talk about how DLA Piper in the Nordics and NewCode AI are working together to solve a classic problem, the buy versus build dilemma in legal tech. DLA Piper in the Nordics operate in a regional market that is fast-moving, tech-savvy, and highly competitive. For these reasons, DLA Piper in the Nordics have for many years had a close collaboration across the different jurisdictions, especially in the areas of legal tech and knowledge management. We early on saw a need that we needed to explore to proactively meet our clients' expectations in the legal Gen AI space.
Yes, and from new side, we saw the same pattern across the market. We saw that when law firms bought standardized AI tools, there was not much differentiation across the other firms. And then when law firms went to the other side, where they tried to build everything in-house, that was definitely more powerful, but it was slower, it was more expensive, and even more scary. It was hard to keep up with the current fast-moving technological landscape. So taking these 2 points, but then combining it with the 3 very important things is, number one, from the unique perspective, how can law firms stand out with their uniqueness in terms of how they deliver the services to their clients? The second part, and again, taking it back to how the landscape is changing very fast, is how can we make sure that as the regulatory landscape gets more regulated or less regulated, the technology gets improved or changes drastically, how these AI workflows are agnostic and actually timeless with the fast-changing landscape. And finally, when law firms like yourself pour in a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of money, how can we make sure that the IPR, the data, and the security is actually governed, and that your AI assets are actually under your control? If you build, you get control, but heavily have a lot of time and effort. If you buy, there is no competitive advantage because everyone has access to the same tools, and that's where we saw this co-creation is the best of both worlds.
Exactly. And that's the challenge that we were looking at, because by the time we started working with NewCode AI, we had already tested and implemented several AI tools, and they're great. They helped us optimize part of our work, but we clearly saw the limitations, especially that the real value for clients come when we connect these pieces into end-to-end workflows. And we wanted to move away from AI features to more AI-enabled processes and mirror how our lawyers actually work.
Exactly. And there are a lot of tools that have great features. There are a lot of point solutions, and the lawyers have to access multiple tools or different places. And indeed, they might have gained efficiency on that certain task, but across the whole, process lifecycle, they're actually copy pasting things right and left, trying to put their own versions together. So the goal here was not to fix a single problem, but rather focus on the whole flow and actually fix the whole flow from A to Z to make it efficient.
Yeah, and part of that discussion, what we landed in was that it's not just about buy versus build, because with AI, it's much more complicated than that. You still need to build your data foundation, work on training and upskilling programs, build for the future. That's what we've set up with NewCode, is this co-creative partnership, and we've started in a very human starting point. We ran workshops to identify the high-value themes where agentic workflows could deliver significant value. For each theme, we've also done a deep dive where we've mapped up the current processes. We've identified pain points and bottlenecks all together with the business and the lawyers. And then we ideate on how workflows can address these issues. And this, of course, is where NewCode's expertise in AI comes in to really help and steer and guide us on what can we do, what should we do, what should we not do. The key takeaway here really is people and processes. It still matters enormously. That the process when NewCode has shown that AI doesn't replace the homework, it really amplifies it.
that preparation, that groundwork the DLA has invested in terms of time, in terms of money, and in terms of framework has been incredibly helpful, because the knowledge management piece has become the critical part and has served as a direct input on how we design the deep dive workshops and how we actually ultimately will create these agentic workflows in Aurora.
Yeah, tech for the sake of tech or AI for the sake of AI has never been the right approach to implementing technology. And I think what our experience really shows is that you don't have to jump straight into full transformation.
Absolutely. It's a step-by-step process where the organization goes through the journey of AI. This is a technology that is now going to be a fundamental part of the day-to-day work. Let's take our time. Let's understand how the effect is outside of the vendor tool and outside of the vendor application, but rather focus on the AI essentials. What can it actually do? What it cannot do? And make sure that the lawyers are investing more time on the things that it can do rather than the things that it cannot do.
Absolutely. The goal is very clear. We're doing this to serve our clients better. Thank you for listening, and we very much look forward to your questions.
A pleasure.
Fantastic. Thanks, Hannah. Thanks, Majid. Hopefully you'll be joining me on the video in just a minute. And again, a reminder to put some questions into the chat. Hopefully they'll be joining us in just a second. Hi, Majid. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm fine, thank you.
Shall we get started, and then hopefully Hannah will join us in just a minute. Obviously, you were talking. I'll start with a different question. You were talking a lot in there about AI agents, and the session was talking about AI agents in practice. And I think it's a term which I think a lot of people are still struggling with. So I was just wondering how you're defining agents. Is it about workflows that sort of involve or are orchestrated by Gen AI, or is it something categorically different from you? Because in the session, it sounds like you're sort of trying to build end-to-end processes, a kind of a legal operating system. Is that how you're looking at it? Could you sort of maybe give an example that illustrates what you mean by agents?
Yeah, I think it's an evolving process through the Gen AI. So when we first started, and when I say when we first started, approximately 2 years ago, you would send a query or a prompt or an instruction to the large language model, and you will get a response back. So that's what we called like a zero-shot conversation. We then evolved to an AI workflow. So instead of the large language model generating the text directly, you could actually insert conditions in the middle where it would actually check if it's supposed to use, for example, another large language model, route it to a different prompt, or simply give the answer back. And an AI workflow is combining together multiple large language models with condition gates, for example, to connect the different models together. With the AI workflows, or with the AI agents, sorry, we're throwing away all these human intervening and designing the steps. Like, okay, first you do this, and then there's a condition, and then you move on to that, and then there's a condition, and that's where you shall end. To instead taking the large language model from it generating the text or the answer to it interacting with the right tool to actually find those answers. So, for example, if a user is asking a legal question, instead of it relying on its trained data, it will interact with a database that has this data ready and pull the relevant information to the user. So when we speak about AI agents, we're moving away from the actual model producing answers based on its trained data to interacting with the correct tools to give the user the relevant data without the user really getting so much involved into the nitty-gritty details. So that's what we're aiming for when we define these AI agents at the moment.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. That's really helpful. And Hannah, thanks very much for joining us. We've only got 2 more minutes, and I'm really keen to try and get 2 questions in. So I'll do my best. I'll keep them short. Obviously, people will be interested in the strategy choice around your decision to actually find a third way between build and buy. And clearly, people will be noticing you're over from Sweden, and at least one of the big globally prominent players originates from there. So I'd be really interested. It's obviously a different choice you've taken. It's a different platform, different architecture. But can you talk about differentiation, how you think this gives you strategically differentiating advantage in terms of client outcomes and competitive edge?
As we try to explain, which is quite hard in 6 minutes and even less so in 2 minutes, but I'll be quick at it. The difference really is that this is a partnership. We are not buying a tool and getting help by implementing or deploying it. We're actually investing time in each other's. by having new code, personnel sitting here with me and my team and really going into the deep levels of this. I mean, the new code team is very impressive with their PhDs on all levels, from AI to information security and architect. So the sort of workshops and prompts and playbooks is just a starting point for us. We wanted to have a really high starting point to be able to, learn quicker. And we're working with new code tools to upskill the whole organization. So we're doing this in 3 tracks at the same time because, people are at different levels of using AI and understanding AI and where it fits in. And I think that's really the key thing here is the differentiation from the start was when we started talking to new code 2 years ago, they already had the modular agnostic approach. They already had the modular functionality approach. They were module agnostic, and they could offer a different information security level by having our either on-prem or on our own cloud instance. And these were just discussions that we didn't see with any other vendor at this point in time.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's brilliant. 2 years is such a long time as well. In this things move so fast, and so have the new code business be ahead of the curve on some of that is fantastic. I've just got 1 more minute whilst the poll is up, and just building on that a little bit. You were talking a lot about making sure you had control of IP and some geopolitical resilience, and I think a lot of businesses and probably quite a lot of nation states are worried about over dependency on these hyperscalers. But I was wondering if you could elaborate on how this approach gave you comfort in mitigating risks. Is it just about data residency and reliance on specific models, or is it a sort of broader piece?
So I would say it's all of the above, but where the discussion started, it was more the models at that point in time, because that's where the discussion was at that time. But then as we were moving into this, partnership, being able to have these discussions with Majid and to help support us on how to really ensure that even our more sensitive matters are, protected beyond anything else, and what models to work on and how that development looks like long term. It really is the depth of the knowledge with new code that attracted us to this partnership.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. Thank you guys so much for talking to us today. And that, I think, just about wraps up this section for the showcase today. So I think I'm going to be handing off in just a second. There we go.
You are now sending us to the breakout rooms.
I am indeed sending everybody out to the breakout room. You should be getting your invitations in just a second. Thank you all for this first section of the day, and we will reconvene in a bit. But please do join your breakout rooms now. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Turn on your camera. Go off mute.
There we go. Yeah, hello there. We just had a fascinating conversation in our breakout room. It was, we had everything from somebody who said we should never spend money as law firms building anything because we'll never have the resources that the tech firms have to do it right, to Pablo from TR getting excited about some new ideas that got proposed by somebody in the room. So it was good fun.
So Pablo said you should build it yourself. Don't rely on vendors. That's what you're saying?
No. He actually proposed a tool that is available.
No. It's you should be building everything and buying everything you can, guys. Let's go all in here, right? We only have one life.
Yeah, don't limit yourself to one or the other. Do both.
Yeah. Be buying and building, and then when you buy, the vendors to yell at. Look at this thing I built. You should do that for everybody else, right? We're going to cross-pollinate. We're going to get this thing
and pay us a royalty for taking our idea.
Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll have a big IP fight about whether Skills.law technically owns the.
Hi, Sarah.
So for those who are wondering what's happening now, we're officially on break. But because this is a seminar, not a webinar, this is an open mic break. So there's a conversation. If you need to take time off and go back, we're going to start at 12 in 14 minutes. So this is your 14 minutes, but you're welcome to stay with us, and we would love to chat with you.
So, yeah, I'm going to say thank you, and I'm going to actually try to make it home during this break since I'm still in the office and it's evening here in Stockholm.
Yes, so and dark probably for you at this point.
It's dark and snowy and it's just crazy. So I'm going to make a run for it, and I'll join via my mobile later. Thank you so much so far. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Hannah. Majid is going to stay. He's not going home.
I'm in Norway, so it's equally dark, but it's not smelly.
you know that from the US it's the same.
Oh.
The Americans' ignorance in European geography is sometimes astonishing.
Magid, can I ask where in Norway you're located?
We're in Oslo. We're in Aker Brygge, which is like just National Theater, just by the palace. So like a 5-minute walk.
I've never been. I just have an inexplicable obsession with Norway. So
it's beautiful. It will not fail you. Book your flights.
Someday I will.
I think Sarah approved for you meeting with Majid for
yes, that's it. There's got to be some knowledge management reason for Sammy to go there now.
It's urgent.
But maybe
it's urgent.
maybe we should wait a couple of months for it to warm up.
It's actually beautiful in winter. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, if you're into skiing, downhill or cross country, it's a winterland. It's a beautiful winterland. It's perfect snow. It's nice and soft, and it's cold, but it's not like humid or windy, which makes it nice cold. But when it's like windy cold, you have all these layers, and Norway's very hilly, and when you walk up a mountain to get home, and if it's like windy and wet, by the time you arrive home, because you're sweating so much, you have like frozen patches underneath your clothes.
You're really selling it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I don't think Greg Lambert from Texas is convinced.
It's like people from Vegas tell you it's a dry heat. Don't worry, it's a dry heat.
Whatever that means.
The Norwegian saying is there's no bad weather, only bad clothes.
I've heard
they say that in every country that has bad weather.
Yeah.
The Irish do it too. So I'm just to say, Majid, my very first experience of cross-country skiing was in Oslo, and my friend took me, and I said, "Oh, this is really beautiful. Where are we?" He said, "We're on the Holmenkollvine ski jump."
Yes, the Holmenkollen. Yes.
Me out.
Oh wow. It's beautiful. It's like I think it's like 300 feet by the metro, and then you have a beautiful view all over Oslo. It's gorgeous. It's like picture perfect. And there's a very nice restaurant there that's also called the Holmenkollen restaurant. You can have a burger and a beer with a gorgeous view in like this very old 1800 style wooden house, and they have like a wood fire. It's like I really recommend it. Like if there's one thing you'll do to Oslo, go to the Holmenkollen restaurant, book a table by the window, and enjoy the view.
I have been there.
You've been there. Yes.
Trying to eat my lunch.
See, that's a double recommendation.
I had to hop on. Yeah, my sister lives in Shema. I've been to Norway a lot, probably more than most other countries, but it's yeah, no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothes. I was about to say that, and Sammy beat me to it.
Right. So I hear that Skills Law is now going to sponsor a trip to Norway for everybody.
Wouldn't
Is that what I'm hearing?
Everybody.
Yes, I think
Great outcome for the day.
Well, I'll stay with my sister.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Right. I think, Majid, I think you missed the point. Skills is free for law firm professionals. Vendors usually are the sponsors.
Right. Well, I withdraw the offer. Thank you.
You could just say, "I will host you at my offices if you show up, and I'll take the afternoon to walk you around."
Oh, that's very nice. We have very beautiful offices, 5 minutes from Central Station, with a nice view over the sea. So you will really like it. So you know what? Can have the next one in person. Yeah,
Part of my deal with myself was going independent was that I will travel a week a month, and I've been this 2025. I was able to keep that. 2026 is starting to be a little busier, but I might knock on your door there.
You know
Where's
what?
the most interesting place you went in 2025, Os?
Yeah.
Some small village in Greece
Nice.
was really great. I didn't do any exotic travel. It was mainly just, Paris and LA and Tel Aviv and seeing friends and family, London. It was all the boring places. But we're taking Skills to Australia next month. So Sydney and Melbourne.
Wow.
I think they also suffer in January is a little too hot, but February should be okay. So
Well, it's all 86 degrees where I am here, so
I think
am
it's
doing.
86 degrees wherever
Where are you
you are,
at?
Sarah, period.
I just turn it up. I'm calling in from India on my family vacation. That's how much I love skills.
Well, we're glad to see you.
It's snowing and really cold out here in Montreal, so we have a snowstorm today.
Ouch.
Is it the same one that hit Toronto? Because we heard from Kate Simpson that they were.
It's probably worse here. We always get it a bit worse over here. I travel to Toronto a lot, and there's always snow accumulation in Montreal.
Yeah.
Toronto, it'll melt away. So yeah.
I have a
really
chat
bad.
with Gil, and every time that I'm thinking about complaining about how cold it is, I swipe left and I say how blessed we are. It's usually about 10 to 12 degrees colder there in the winter. It's just insane. Like, why do you guys live there?
It's beautiful.
In the summer, when you go on campus on college tour, it looks great. So yeah. And Rebecca went to a warmer weather too.
I did. I was visiting my sister and niece in Miami for a couple of weeks, and I would like to go back.
That is a good place to be.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm headed down there week after next for a different conference. And I haven't been in Florida for years, so I'm sure I'll be surprised by what I see.
I'm on the college tour journey this year with twins in junior year in high school. So I don't know how much I could crisscross the country to the colleges that they want to see, but Florida's on the list, along with the World Baseball Classic. That's their Christmas gift. I ran out of ideas. They pretty much have everything already anyway.
It's a good one. Yeah.
I'm down in South Carolina now for a few days, and it's freezing cold.
Oh.
Which does not make sense at all.
Tom, where are you?
I'm sitting just north of where Rebecca's at. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I will attest. I was just looking at when she said that. I looked at my watch. It's 35 degrees here today. So
Wow.
normally
That's
cold.
That's
Yeah.
not what I was expecting.
Wow.
I thought it was warmer in the Carolinas.
It's warmer in New York City right now.
I was going to say, I was in New York yesterday. It was warmer there than it was when I got home. So
It was nice having dinner with you, Tom, earlier this week.
that was nice. That was a great event. Great group of people.
I think it's only my Zoom that
shows everybody.
No, that I think I freeze every once in a while. Did I just freeze to you guys?
Yeah, you just froze again. Yeah.
So I'm going to use the next 4 minutes to restart my computer, given that I need to speak soon. So,
Or not. That could be interesting.
Oh,
see you soon.
what will happen without supervision here?
Trouble
What
you
trouble
get
can we get in there?
yourself
We could do a mutiny.
This place will look a lot different by the time he gets back on. No.
I'm still here watching things, folks.
Oh, yes. Big sister's watching us.
The voice of God coming down.
And you
It's
know
like,
it,
I'm gonna
Doug.
report.
That's so funny.
What kind of shenanigans can we get into?
Yeah. No, it's
How many, how many years now has Skills been going on?
well, some version of this has been going on for nearly a quarter of a century, if you can believe it.
Yes,
We
that's
did a-
true.
we
I
did
guess
our
I meant
first-
the part where we all get together virtually and
Yeah.
figure out how to use the fun
The
software. where-
virtual thing we had to do in 2020, but we were getting together in person. I think our first one was January of 03.
Oh, I just thought it was interesting, I guess, 2020, when suddenly the introverts got this new situation where they could network without having to like figure out how to switch between groups as easily. You just kind of press the button and you show up in a conversation.
No, it's worked well. It's worked very well. Yeah. Mm.
My first time attending, and I'm really enjoying it.
Well, welcome. Welcome.
Yay. I think I one of the parts I really loved was that breakout room. It was nice to be with European firms as well, right? ILTA, you get all the Canadians and Americans, but it was nice to kind of see the EU perspective as well.
Yeah. Well, enjoy it, because as the day goes on, it gets later and later for them. So it'll be harder to keep them in. But we're glad to have their company while they can join us. Any other newbies to skills today? Just if you're willing to out yourselves, because we say welcome.
Yes. I'm new. I'm kind of a hybrid. I'm a hybrid because I'm originally from Canada, but I live in Ireland. So, and I'm very new to my role. So I'm all the things. So I'm very, very new.
Well, welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it as well. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm also new. 1 month actually today.
Wow.
In my role in my firm, so quite new.
Well, I hope you pick up some interesting ideas today. We've got a good range of presentations, some thought-provoking ones too.
Hello.
Hello, you're back and
I'm
not
back.
frozen.
You made it.
Yeah.
Oh, as soon as you came back, my first thought was hide. Just back. I kept thinking, hide.
And we've got Kate.
It's Kate.
Hi, Kate.
Hello. I've been listening all this time. Just now I'm on video. Ta-da.
And
We got excited.
And Adam, who is hiring. So maybe at the next break, we're gonna after lunch, we're gonna talk about, or after dinner for you guys in London.
Yeah, Adam's one of those European firms where I might not be here after lunch.
So you're not that committed to hiring.
Skills.
Fair enough. Yeah. Probably not from the US. No.
It'll be because he fell asleep in this moment that he misses just the right. That's what the implication is here.
Exactly. And we're going to start in 1 minute. So, but you guys can keep on going until then.
It's a lot of pressure to come up with something super entertaining to say just for 1 minute, host.
Maybe Adam can tell us about the position he's looking to hire.
There you go. Tell us.
Nice. 2 managers within my law tech team that are going to be internal practice engagement facing. So looking at how we can work with lawyers on some more internal stuff, because we've historically been mostly external facing.
And that's a perfect segment.
Working for Adam is great. I encourage
Thank you.
So that's a perfect segment. Now we're going to talk about the survey. As I said, the survey has 2 parts. The first part is what we're going to talk about. We're going to release today. It's on the website. You could go in and read the whole thing. Ab and Rebecca were kind enough to make sense of it all. Just a reminder for everyone, we anonymize everything before we send it to them, so they don't know who said what. And the information is based on the first 320 something results. We have 100 more people from law firms who answered. Overall, we have over 600 people who took the survey this year. And without further ado, let's start. Now the exciting part where we share the survey results. So everyone knows Skills is about the community coming together to share information with each other, what works, what doesn't work, etc. And the price of admission for today, for those who are in the Zoom, it was to register and to share with us the information. We had almost 600 people answer the survey, of which 400 something are from law firms. A month ago, it was 300 and something. We took this information, we anonymized it, and we transferred it to Rebecca and Ab to make sense of it all. So Rebecca and Ab, what did we discover?
Thanks, Oz. And before we go into the survey, just by way of introduction, my name is Abhijat or Ab. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Loophole. And I looked at the data coming from the vendor side of the equation. Rebecca, do you want to do a quick intro?
Thank you, Ab. Thank you, Oz. Rebecca Pasternak, I'm the Manager of Practice Innovation at White & Case, and I was happy to bring my perspective from inside Big Law as I looked at this data and worked with Ab to bring you this report.
And for many of you, I'm sure you've seen this report in the past. My big ask is going to be for all of you to take what we're giving you as the tip of the iceberg, and please make sure you go to skills.law and download and read the full report as well. But overall, the report is a collection of expert insights. As O said, we focus primarily on the law firm respondents that came from big and mid-sized law firms. And I guess the key takeaway was that we're going through a great transition and we are at an inflection point as a profession. Firms are very much moving from, if we do anything with AI, which no surprise, AI dominated the report, but how do we embed that? What are the specific use cases from leveraging AI in all functional areas? And we believe that we stand at a critical point as a profession where we are shifting what could happen as we leverage these tools and technologies. And as we go through the report, you'll hear a lot more around what firms, your peers, have planned for both the past or what they accomplished and what they're looking at into the future. So we'll go through a bit of that in this report. And please put in any questions as we do that we can pick up as part of the Q&A after the talk.
So we surveyed you on various ways that you may be using or deploying AI and technology within your firms. And what we saw is a shift this year. There is universal engagement with AI across firms. It has touched nearly every firm function, from document review to client service delivery. We saw that 94% of firm respondents engaged with AI in their strategy, 94% engaged with AI in their policy and training, and 91% engaged with AI in building internal capabilities. So this is no longer an option in 2025 and moving forward. We saw in some of your responses that there's been a shift in the conversation. So the dialogue is no longer, should we do this? It's how do we do this effectively, efficiently, and safely? There's broad participation in engagement with generative AI, again, across nearly every firm function, including how do we train our young and junior attorneys now that some of their core functionalities may be replaced with this technology. But really encouragingly, we saw that the answer was that same technology.
And before we go into more of the data, just a quick note on the methodology. For parts of the report, we moved from just asking a yes/no tag type question to being able to measure deployment maturity. It allows us to be able to look at the maturity across different functional areas, and it breaks it down into 4 different key components. We essentially asked in the survey what you did this year, and for each of those tags, asked to pick one of those stages of deployment. If you're comparing it to the report last year, just be cautious in making direct comparisons to that, as the questioning was slightly different.
So here you can see across key categories this distribution between explored to live and study. And we see a critical distinction across these categories. So we can see where some respondents have achieved true operational integration versus where you might still be experimenting. So you can see, and we'll discuss in more detail in just one moment, that some things like collaboration systems need maturity at 66% live and study. So we are thinking that this means that items like Microsoft Teams and HiQ, these have been around for a while and have seen a lot of integration and successful deployment. So diving a bit deeper into this, here are 3 numbers that tell a really interesting story. So these are categories that have seen live and steady state. Collaboration systems leads was 66%. 41% have said that they have reached live and steady with internal Gen AI capabilities. So this means deploying things like CoCounsel, Copilot, Harvey, Gora, etc. But only 10% have, that means just 31 firm respondents, have gotten to a live and steady state with agentic AI. So there's this gap between participation and maturity, and that's where there's real work to do in 2026. We really want to talk through where I mentioned right at the outset that 91 to 94% of firm respondents have said that they are deploying generative AI, using it in their operations and their strategy, but we still sit at 41% with that live and steady state with internal Gen AI capabilities. So really something to pay attention to. And something else to really pay attention to is this 10% agentic AI number, because as we see here, this is going to be the biggest question mark for 2026. So 84% of you responded and said that you worked on agentic AI workflows in 2025, meaning you actively explored or piloted agentic AI capabilities during last year. But as just noted, only 10% of you have reached live and steady state. Now, that said, 73% of you want to talk about agentic AI and what it means and how to effectively deploy it in next year, in 2026. So this is our paradox. What we get from this information is that the community wants support, peer engagement, and discussion about agentic AI, what it means for firms, how to successfully deploy it, and just how we're going to use it in firms this year.
Yeah, and that number doesn't surprise me. You know, certainly 2025 was the year of agents. I think as people defined what that meant, and already in conversations I'm hearing a lot of firms developing that further to see how agents can be integrated into every single workflow. For me, one of the most interesting data points was this question where we asked, has AI improved firm results in the last 12 months, or how has AI improved firm results in the last 12 months? And perhaps unsurprisingly, where we saw the most impact was in some of the more developed areas, such as research and development, drafting, and so on. And where we saw the least amount of impact so far has been in more of the, let's call it the economical or the financial metrics. So win rate, reducing write-offs, or having an impact on realization rate. That's not to say that it hasn't had an impact. We think it may be due to several factors, including perhaps there isn't an easy way to determine what the level of impact is. All of those areas that I mentioned where it hasn't yet shown an impact also are long tail measures. So looking in the last 12 months, maybe there hasn't been a noticeable change yet, or it could be that there isn't a true way to measure that effectively. But this is certainly one of those areas that I'm keen to watch because it's how you are showing ROI, how you're developing use cases for some of these solutions. And Rebecca, I don't know if you have a different perspective from the law firm's view.
One possibility may be that innovation members and who responded to this survey may not have access to some of that ROI and firm financial data. So that's something to pay attention to in 2026. How can we marry up the financial side of the firm and the innovation side of the firm in an efficacious way so we make sure everyone has access to the data that we need?
Yeah, and beyond that, we also looked at what are the top use cases for AI. We asked all of you to highlight and rank the top use cases for AI today, and also predict what you believe the top use cases of AI will be 3 years from today. And some interesting points were 3 particular ones: answering legal questions, enterprise search, and creating code all came out as ones that will rank much higher 3 years from today than they do today. And things like summarizing information, analysis, or extraction, while still being notable, are predicted to rank lower 3 years from now. So that could be because they are much more of a developed use case, and things like answering legal questions are still developing further. But these are certainly very interesting from our point of view to look at what you believe will be the core areas where value will be derived more greatly in the future. And as we think about what firms are spending time on when it comes to leveraging AI, this was a really interesting and partly surprising take. Important note here, we asked a question on what are you spending time on when you think about AI? And you can see that a lot of firms are developing client-facing tools. They're co-developing with clients. And a surprisingly high number, at least from my perspective, are building bespoke internal LLMs. This was a surprising outcome. The first 2 are tied to revenue generating efforts, potentially. And the last is actually very interesting, but it is important to note that this could be because it's just based on one client or one use case or one response. Certainly the building bespoke LLMs was a surprising outcome. and as high as the response is for that.
So what does it all mean, and where should we be paying attention in 2026 based on what we saw in these responses? So 5 themes have emerged here we want to point you to just to wrap up. Agentic AI and the governance around that. So that gap that I pointed to of 73% of you who have interest in discussing agentic AI this year, and the 10% maturity rate for 2025 agentic AI initiatives, this represents a big opportunity and also a big challenge for this community. So we want to watch this space. There's going to be a lot of focus on agents this year. ROI measurement. There is a very high not sure rate, and this signals to us the need for better frameworks connecting AI use and our ROI measurement frameworks to make sure that we're getting the best business outcomes for our investments. Training at scale. 43% of firm respondents still reported they have a majority of untrained lawyer populations, which is very interesting given the fact that 91 to 94% of you have indicated that you have deployed generative AI in most, if not all, of your various firm mechanisms from policy to workflows. So we want to make sure that we've closed that gap. That's an operational priority to the extent that we haven't. Client governance is another one here. 69% of us are navigating some type of client AI restrictions, whether a small list of clients that have restrictions or a large one. So we have to balance governance between our need to be innovative and push the ball forward and be compliant with those restrictions. And finally, firm built differentiation. So as Ab just noted, there's not an insignificant number of us building client-facing AI, probably a much smaller number doing something even more bespoke, but still something to pay attention to. So what this means for competitive dynamics is increasingly firm specific. And so we will pay attention to that this year and see if that's signal or noise. All right. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Oz.
Thank you, Rebecca and Ab. It was fascinating. Before we go into live Q&A, I just want to remind people, this is just the first half of the survey. The second half asks for specific use cases where people use legal AI in different solutions. And instead of just releasing it as a survey results, we decided to do something different. We're going to have a seminar every week, Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, where we're going to bring a few of the solutions to give a short demonstration, allow you to ask them questions live, Q&A, and then we're going to ask the vendors to leave, and we're going to stay with someone who recently went through the selection for that specific use case. You could sign up now for those and be part of the conversation, learn what matters most. So that's about the second half of the survey. The entire survey, the first half is already on the website, and the second half is going to come with a series of seminars. And with that, we're going to switch to the Q&A.
Thank you. Me, you guys, Ab, and people, please type in your questions. First question, Rebecca and Ab, anything in the survey results really surprised you? Rebecca first.
Waiting for okay. So something that surprised me was there was this gap, there was this differential between firms that reported or respondents that reported that they had their lawyer populations fully trained for use of generative AI, and firms that reported that they had generative AI capabilities deployed within their firm. So that statistic was somewhere like 91 to 94%, depending on the category. But firms reporting that they had fully trained lawyer populations was somewhere in the 40s. So that was a surprise to me. I think depending on who you talk to and which firms you talk to, they have their training programs fully implemented and running smoothly. But maybe it depends on what they're thinking about training program and what it means. But I was surprised by that.
And I think to answer Greg's question on that, we weren't prescriptive enough in the question. We didn't ask, what does it mean? Does it mean that you just teach people how to use the tools or the general AI training? I think most firms, at least with the firms that I'm working with, they do both. So there is a framework of understanding the risks and capabilities of what it does, and then goes into use cases, specific training. This is the right tool. It often comes with a policy. So the policy say you may and you may not do this or that. And then an appendix to the policy would say, for this use case, the firm's recommended tool is this, and then you could also do it in those following tools. And again, that's what we're going to walk through the seminar series there to talk about each one of the use cases. Sorry, Ab, to you.
No, perfectly fine. And I think the most surprising thing for me, it's already been picked up by a few people in the chat, which was everything that we captured in the firm as builders slide, and it was people doing something with building their own LLM. As I think a bunch of people have mentioned in the chat already, it probably isn't building their own LLM, I hope. And it's something adjacent to that, which is just being classified as that. So probably we can dig a bit deeper. But I think even the other two categories of building with clients or building or just co-developing with vendors, I actually expected that number, even though it's pretty high, with all the caveats I mentioned in my virtual me presence. I think that number I expect it to be higher. I certainly hear in my conversations with firms that they are engaging a lot more in the build part of the equation, co-developing with clients or with other vendors. So surprising to see, and it'll be interesting to track what that looks like a year from now.
And often when I work with law firms and interview partners, the biggest fear is the reduction in hours because of AI to their own business model and how to train associates. My answer is usually those are the wrong things to be afraid of. The biggest fear, AI is the solution, not the problem with associate training. As we're going to hear at 2:00 from Thor and Megan, I think it's just one example. There are a few other people who are attending here who use AI to help with associate training. But the focus, I tell them, you're looking under the streetlight, where you're looking at the marginal change of the evolutionary part of AI. The biggest part, the revolutionary, is giving whole new capabilities. And it's true for you and it's true for your clients. And unless you prepare your firm to that moment where clients start using AI, the phone won't ring unless your knowledge is streamable. Have you seen anything from the survey results indicating that firms are preparing for the bigger shift, the revolutionary that AI is about to inflict on the industry?
Perhaps. I think there were certainly indications of that. It's too early, and bear in mind that the data that we looked at was from late 2025, and still things are moving. So I think at least my perception is that things are in motion. We don't yet have the full data to see what that kind of impact will be. I think as we captured in the survey, there is information around how this is going to impact all of the financial metrics, which is something that has an impact on the entire firm as a business. But as I think Rebecca highlighted as well in her virtual presence, some of the respondents may not have the data yet, and some of that data may not have actually come to fruition.
Yeah,
Thank you.
To echo that. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I'll hand it to Kate. But we saw it mostly come out in the sort of the soft results and some of the quotes. Like, we know that the work is going to be displaced, and we have to start thinking about that and what it means. Kate.
And
Thank you so much.
Before we hand it to Kate, Rebecca took on herself to build an interactive dashboard that in a few days, weeks, hours will be available to play with the survey results. So when that's ready, we're going to email everyone on the mailing list. So
thank you so much, you three. That was a fantastic summary, both video and slides. I'm really pleased that the work you put into that too. It was very obvious. So thank you. So we're now opening our data to intelligence. So it's all about data for the next 3 sessions. We're talking about workflows to wisdom. I'm Kate Simpson, formerly at law firms building KM innovation and library functions and rolling out to lawyers, now happily helping others understand why KM is so brilliant and how to scale tools, content, and efficiencies. So we have 3 excellent presentations. The first up is with Andrew and Naomi and Kevin from Centauri, but we're going to be talking about how leading firms and vendors have all tried or attempting to collaboratively solve some of our messy data problems. So if we could take it away.
Hello, everybody. I'm Naomi Swalve from Centauri, and I'm joined here today by Andrew Brinkman from Fried Frank.
Hi, everyone. Andrew Brinkman here, Global Director of Knowledge Management at Fried Frank.
And we're here today to talk about a bespoke solution on data structuring that Fried Frank and Centauri have developed together in a partnership. So, Andrew, why don't you tell us a bit more about what the problem was that we were tackling together?
So jumping right into the problem, we have a practice group that does reviews of M&A deals, particularly GP stakes deals. Now, for these reviews, they scour up to 20 plus document types and maybe 50 different individual documents for each review for each deal. This is a somewhat messy manual process. It's used to generate a master chart that they produce for each deal that allows them to see all the individual data points laid out in the way that they're used to seeing them. We wanted to work with them to make this process more efficient and, really importantly, to allow us over time to build a database that would give context to the data points they're pulling out for each review, for each deal, so they could see how data points were changing and they could give better advice to our clients with better confidence.
To shed a little more light on the challenge here, we at Centauri have a lot of experience in structuring data and creating structured data sets from unstructured legal documents. But in this particular case, because we had a very specific use case, we had a very niche practice area, a specialist practice area within a broader M&A practice area. And we were dealing with a mix of unique document types that were unique to this specific transaction, as well as documents that were not unique to the transaction, where we were interested in getting aggregated data insights from those documents. So figuring how to structure data from something that was even more unstructured than what we're normally dealing with, that was exactly the challenge that we decided to tackle together here.
We're very familiar with introducing solutions for our attorneys. We really wanted to meet the attorneys where they are today in their practice. So we were looking for something that was extremely user-centric and also, a process that they would find reliable and that they'd be confident in.
So, Andrew, this might be a good time to go into a little product demo and give a brief overview of what this looked like in practice.
All right, so here we are on sort of the homepage for what we're calling Project Anonymize, which is the project we've created for the purposes of this demo here in Centauri. We have various different agreements and letters and document types that are appearing for this transaction. We picked a smaller set. We have about 6 documents for the demonstration, but for each of these documents, if I were to click on them, kind of to show you the data points that are extracted, Centauri for this particular project only extracts about a dozen data points from an operating agreement. In this instance, it found 4. That was part of the challenge, is that the different data points, and there could be maybe 100 data points, but they might appear, one might appear in this document over here, and 2 might appear in this document. Maybe the numbers might vary, but that's a very particular challenge that we had for this project. So if I go in to look at something called the Navigator view, which we really like how it kind of shows for the different document types. Again, very accurate. We find very accurate data extraction here of these points for particular document types, but there's lots of different document types. So in this instance, we have to be aware that we're kind of pulling together almost different charts or different grid reviews and putting them into one review, one chart or grid for our attorneys.
And adding to that, that was exactly the fun part of our challenge here, because it is very easy to generate this kind of structured data set when you only have one applicable document type. But in this case, because we were serving the ERISA specialists for the GP stakes group, that is a very niche use case that requires attorneys to work cross-functionally and to analyze all these different document types. And so our challenge was, how can we provide them with a data set that skips the messiness and just create that structure from chaos for them to present them with this very, very neat and user-centric solution?
After using Centauri, again, like I said, we ended up with different charts, and that comes from the fact that we used 3 different taxonomies within Centauri and got 3 different outputs in the Centauri platform. So we use a simple product called Power Automate, which folks are probably familiar with, many of you are, to take those together and then to stitch them into one chart for our attorney. Again, you have an automated review using AI within Centauri. You have an attorney that can review and verify the data points that are extracted. Then you have another automated process creating this master chart that they can use for each of the deals.
And so, Andrew, maybe you could share a bit more about how the attorneys are using this and how this has facilitated people's workflows.
Sure, there's 2 aspects of that. I'll say one is the per deal implementation of the tool, which is just using it within the common workflow of one particular deal. The second thing that we're working on, and it's kind of in early stages, which is very exciting, is now we have all this structured data coming out in Excel and putting that together over time, aggregating from deal to deal to deal, and giving them an ongoing evolving database and to see the trends that from deal to deal. And that we're in the early stages of, and that's pretty exciting. So we're very hopeful that, we're going to have a very thorough and robust collection of data of multiple deals over time very soon. And that it's going to really power some really great decision-making and advice that we're able to give to our clients.
And that is exactly the value of this aggregated data. I mean, one thing is how do we streamline workflows? How do we get even more insights into the hands of the attorneys? And the other point is the data insights that we can utilize. So that ties into with Centauri's vision of deal intelligence. And we're excited to partner with you on this one and hopefully on many more projects to come.
Marvelous. Thank you very much. So calling Andrew, Kevin, and Naomi to the stage. Fabulous to see bringing some order to the chaos and making lawyers' lives easier. It's our goal, obviously, in much of what we do, particularly in those fiddly jobs where there is data everywhere and not a drop to share. So we have a few minutes for Q&A. I want to kind of start with Centauri and ask. Traditionally, we know that Centauri, you rose to stardom because you had solved that very painful data extraction problem to help us build deal databases and other workflows. Can you tell us, Kevin or Naomi, about how you are kind of tracking some of the more intricate tasks that you're being asked to do with your technology? Is there a lot of training or fine-tuning of your original technology?
Yeah, happy to speak to that. Sorry. Happy to speak to that. And so a lot of what we do is based on our own proprietary data extraction engine. And that's a technology that we have developed as a team of former lawyers and engineers. And that is a piece of technology that we are incredibly proud of. We do not train on customer data or spend a lot of time fine-tuning our own models. We have our proprietary system utilizing many different LLMs, plus machine learning techniques, plus a couple of other secret things that go into Centauri's core IP, and that's where the magic happens.
And I'll add that we found that with many of our customers, the attorneys don't tend to love prompting tables to extract data themselves. They like to have that data available, high confidence, high quality to then do things with. And what we're starting to see in the market as a general trend is where every firm has some form of AI, really what we've predicted is it's those, in many cases, those fringe use cases like the one we just demoed with Fried Frank here, where you have a very specific practice area with a very specific need, where having that data in a structured, high quality, accurate format provides a competitive advantage for those attorneys in their market. So we're really excited about those applications and going straight to value for the end users.
Perfect, thank you. So we have a couple of questions in the chat, so I'm going to switch to that. Andrew, I'd like to ask, because this matches one of the questions I'd done, I'm going to go straight to Ron's. I will come back to the other one. Does the firm, you teased us with other use cases. So to answer Ron's question, does the firm have plans to apply the logic here to other large document sets at the firm?
I would say yes, and it's sort of at this point still not certain which practice groups we're going to use this with as we've done it. And I think it's the key takeaway is we designed a flexible workflow that kind of just met the exact needs of that practice. So what we really the takeaway is we can be flexible. So it's not the next thing we do is not going to look like this. It's going to be very different, but we know that we can piece things together. We can use humans from our support staff. We can use different technology and of course Centauri to build solutions that kind of meet the attorneys where they are. We have gone through a few different use cases, and we've kind of looked at maybe this might be the right solution, but we haven't gone forward on anything quite yet.
Amazing, thank you. And Greg has a bunch of questions which we might have to forward him straight to Centauri to answer after because the poll is about to pop up. Oh, and there it is. So can I just ask Centauri to end the session? I love how this community is so collaborative. Can you talk a bit about your relationship with Fried Frank and how that worked?
Yeah, absolutely. I could chime in here. So we believe in long-term partnership. So exactly like Andrew said, you identify those really high pain, high priority use cases to tackle first. And when we first started working with the firm, we were thinking about what are the areas where we can deliver, rapid time to value. And ERISA was just screamed off the page as something that was painful because it's complex data, disparate documents. Let's go solve that first, and then really stick the landing and prove value to the attorneys. That builds trust, so you can then run into the next use case and next use case with confidence. So that's how we've approached the partnership and really building it brick by brick. And we hope to do that with every Centauri customer, is have that eye towards long-term value creation, starting with demonstration of value, proof of ROI. So these aren't so much experiments as real demonstrated value to the firm that we can grow from there.
Amazing. I love the fact that you're trying to really challenge and solve some of our most complex problems, data problems. So thank you very much, everyone. I believe we are now moving into video 2 in this section. Thank you very much. We're now going to be talking about more trusted relationships, so more collaborations between vendor and law firm. This one, still talking about data, but this one from Deborah Boaz and Maven. Let's roll the video.
And Kevin and Nomi, you have some more questions in the chat you could answer as we play.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alon Dolev, CEO and co-founder of Maven.
And I'm Matt Kelly from the Data Strategy and Security Practice at Debevoise in Plimpton, New York.
Today, we will present how Debevoise and Maven collaborated together to customize the Maven product and to design a solution tailored for the unique needs of a Debevoise client in a way that provided measurable value. We will also demonstrate how Maven is providing real-time intelligence for highly sensitive information, and how Maven enables lawyers to stay in full control of what data is being captured, data automation, and permissions management.
So the challenge that we wanted to address here is one that'll be familiar for a lot of lawyers. It involves large data mapping projects that are required to be conducted, sometimes for operational purposes, but in our case for legal purposes as well. And that can be either in litigation or in risk management for regulatory purposes. But these exercises usually require tons of attorneys, very sensitive information, and they end up producing a tremendous amount of cost for clients without a lot of value created. And so you really are managing risk more than you're generating something that is useful to the clients from how you complete these projects. And so we approached Maven, who we had met, to try to find a way to use AI to do this better, more efficiently and more effectively for our clients, if possible.
I'll now present Maven. Maven is the relationship intelligence platform, equipping every partner with an AI business development agent dedicated to their network and strategy. Maven will suggest proactive engagement with lawyers' network and will work to create a holistic understanding of every client and prospect on your network. In order to build that, we developed our proprietary confidential data capturing engine. And when we presented that to Matt and the Debevoise team, they immediately identified the potential of what we build to solve the needs of their clients. So we worked together and designed the Maven Navigator. The Maven Navigator will join calls, virtual or in-person meetings, will capture only information that was pre-approved or relevant to your strategy. It will not create a full recording or a full transcription of the call. It will only capture information that the legal team already pre-approved to be captured. This way, it completely frees the interviewer or the lawyer from note-taking and reviewing minutes, and enables you to focus on your client and on the conversation. And the Maven Navigator will suggest insights and provide insights as to what was covered and what should be covered during the conversation. I'll pass the mic back to you, Matt, to review the project we did together.
Thanks, Alon. So the project we're working on was a pretty standard data minimization project for a client. They had a tremendous volume of records. They knew there were certain materials and information they would need to retain in those records, but they also knew that there was a lot of excess data that they could dispose of if they could figure out where it was. And so to do that, they needed to understand what they had in the first instance. And traditionally, the way we go about this, whether it's in the litigation context or an advisory project like this, is to do a very large data mapping exercise with interviewees of custodians and system owners using humans. It's very time consuming and very expensive. But we have high confidentiality requirements. We need to make sure that the information is captured accurately. And we want to have some visibility into what's actually occurring. So we approached Maven to try to build a solution to address that problem. And I'm happy to say that what they came up with in the Navigator absolutely answered the call that we had in mind here. So what we were able to do and what we learned in the end was we were able to generate significant savings in terms of both the efficiency and cost. Tremendous reduction in the attorney hours required. Instead of having a team of 3 people on every call to do the interviews, we could have 1 person conducting the interview, gathering the information using predefined questionnaires. Accuracy went right through the roof because they could in real time confirm the information they were capturing and make sure they got what they needed and not a bunch of other information. The quality of the experience was better on the client side because they didn't feel like their time was being wasted or their money. They knew that we were using technology to the best of our ability to answer their challenges. We had absolute confidence in the confidentiality and security of the solution that was being used here. And in the end, it's a very strong test case, I think, for the idea that we can use these technologies and solutions not to replace either the attorneys or the advice they provide, but really to enhance what they're able to do and deliver solutions at a better and more efficient basis for our clients. Provided, and this is the most important thing, that you have the right partner to work with. And in that regard, Maven was terrific. They, from the beginning, were responsive to our demands. We had questions about changes we needed in the interface or things we wanted for how records were handled. They responded quickly. It wasn't a multi-quarter roadmap. It was by the next week, we'd have raised something on a meeting and then we'd see it in the interface. They were shipping constantly. And they really had faith and trusted us to say what it was that we needed, and were responsive to that. So it was a real pleasure working with them on the solution, and I'm happy to say that I think the client was both very satisfied and appreciative of exactly what we were able to deliver in a scenario that otherwise could have been a much more challenging exercise from their perspective.
Fantastic. Here we are again. So calling Matt and Alon to the stage, please. Another fantastic collaborative example between law firm and vendor. Have we found that? Yes, fabulous. Because my first question is for Matt. Welcome to the stage. Thank you very much for your video. Matt, I really wanted to talk about what it was about Maven that encouraged you to reach out to specifically deal with this problem. There are so many AI solutions that we're faced with. So I kind of want to understand what your decision-making process was for getting Alon and his startup to help you with this.
It's a good question. I'm a little worried about answering with Alon here because I don't want to make him blush too much. But you know, as I'm sure everybody here experiences, we see a ton of products and vendors sort of on a revolving door basis that come in and explain their solutions and tell us how they're going to solve everything and how, guess what, every tool does everything. If we just give it a little bit of time, it'll be the perfect solution. And for various reasons, we've become fairly skeptical of those claims, and Maven never made them. And instead, when we started to talk about it, they said, here's what it is, here's what it's not for now, and here's what the technology is. They didn't sort of claim to be something that they weren't at that moment, but they were also open to the idea that maybe they needed to do more, could do more with the platform. And sometimes, you know, you see the far other end of that spectrum, which is people come in with, you know, here's the solution I built, and I'm not really interested in sort of what you think you might need. Let me tell you why what I've got is the best thing for you. And that's equally uncompelling for us. And so they did a great job just hitting the right balance of those 2 points where they weren't promising things that seemed unrealistic. And they were also open to listening. And then the last piece, which is the most important, as I mentioned in the video there, they then delivered on those things very quickly. We were exploring this over, I don't know, months and months together in a whole bunch of different scenarios and use cases about, you know, what if we did this? What if we did that? Could we have a button that does this? How about instead of the button that does this, there's a toggle? How about you export it as a document? Things that, you know, we could throw out in a meeting and they would take them, run with them, and turn them around. That's sort of a collaborative process that is pretty rare, and it wasn't a hard call then.
That's excellent. I want to ask Alon about your security. I'm sure people are curious about how your permissions management actually works under the hood, because this sounded like the requirement for security was very, very high, and you in your demo you described some of it, but it would be excellent to understand like how it works in practice.
So we work with the top security standards that exist, but the main thing is that we work with confidential data, and data is the gold on the one hand, but many data is not being captured or requires a lot of manual work. So we needed to put a lot of work on how do we make siloed, how we do respect some of the aspects of siloed work, of legal work in law firms. And we structured the Maven platform so that it respects the way that legal work is being delivered. We have full transparency to our clients on how we manage, and we don't train our models on clients' data, but we also enable a multifaceted data permissions management for our clients to get what they need without creating more exposure and lose control in a sense.
Fantastic. Matt, back to you. Interested you, we've got the poll already. Please do your voting. You mentioned accuracy went through the roof once the navigator used predefined questionnaires to capture exactly the right data. How did you go about confirming that?
Matt, you're muted.
Thank you. The nice thing is you can actually really do it in real time. So while you're talking to the person, it's not like somebody fills out an answer and then only one side gets to see it. Because if you're taking the interview and you're actually conducting the conversation and you're not having to focus on your notes. So you're not like sitting there trying to do the mechanical process of writing. I can actually listen to you, hear what you're saying, understand what you're saying, and I can look at what it's capturing in real time in a short blurb and say, did it get it right? If the numeric thing, did it get the number of systems right? And then I can say, if I don't remember correctly, just to be clear, was it 35,000? Was it 60,000? The person can confirm it. I can lock it in. We're done with that. And for anything more than that, I can look at it and say, does that reflect what I understand was told to me today? And then when we're finished with the whole interview, I can provide to that custodian the document that it generates and say, just want to be clear, can you agree and adopt what's here to make sure we've got it all right? So we can kind of have an end-to-end process that really covers all the normal points that something could go wrong, and kind of lock those out to get to what feels like a high enough degree of accuracy to rely on the information.
Amazing. We're out of time as the skills showcase is moving along. We're going to segue into video 3. I wanted to thank you ever so much, Matt and Alon, for your video and sharing. If there are any questions, I hope you'll be able to answer them in the chat as we move on to video 3 in this section of data to intelligence. Data, and not a drop to spare. Let's see how Cravath has approached this data swarm, flood, whatever you want to call it. Scott, Pablo, and JP, take it away.
Hi, I'm Pablo Arredondo, VP of Co-Counsel at Thomson Reuters. When large language models came out and started accelerating, what excited me the most was not necessarily that they could write, but that they could read. And there is really no greater reading challenge in all of law than what faces those trying to manage massive e-discovery projects. And so we were so excited and privileged to get to partner with a fantastic firm like Cravath to explore how can you bring these LLMs to bear on that most massive of information challenges. After all, when you're doing doc review, you have not only a huge corpus of documents that have to be reviewed, there's often very high stakes or tight deadlines. It's very granular information that you need, and this can lead to a lot of expense. So this is an area where there's so much room and power to be brought, so much room for gains and power to be brought from this technology. So with that, I'll pass it to my colleague, JP.
So unlike traditional tools, our system reads every word of the full corpus of documents and works in 2 stages. So first, we assess the relevance using a scoring system built into the AI, and then we provide a detailed analysis of the most relevant documents. So this approach allows the AI to serve as this initial validator where attorneys can ultimately maintain oversight and apply their judgment to the AI's analysis. And I'll now hand it over to Andrew Weiner from Cravath.
Hi, I'm Andrew Weiner, a discovery attorney at Cravath.
The results of using this technology have been remarkable. In a recent M&A transaction, we analyzed over 2,000 documents to identify key terms and issues. And after careful review, statistical validation confirmed over 96% accuracy, with any errors limited to non-substantive aspects of the agreements. This gave us rapid, high-level assessment without costly linear review. In an internal investigation, we deployed the AI to review approximately 600,000 documents with 98% accuracy. This saved an estimated 16,000 hours of attorney time. Let that sink in for a second. 16,000 hours that our attorneys could redirect to higher value work. In litigation, these applications have been equally impressive. In a major merger, we used the AI to analyze 130,000 documents in preparation for a CEO deposition, and quickly identified key documents that would have been laborious to find through traditional methods. We've also implemented it as an additional privilege screen, where the AI caught hundreds of hard-to-find privileged documents, which is a significant risk management win. In mass torts cases, the AI has helped us surface the most critical documents from massive productions without the need for expensive linear review. And with that, I'll hand it to Scott Renz.
Thanks, Andrew. In terms of lessons learned that we've taken away from this process, there are a few. The first is that the technology works. AI augmented document review has the potential to become a standard of care for how we do e-discovery across a range of domains and use cases. Second, although it works, AI cost remains a factor in these high volume applications. So we need to be careful about efficient prompting, making sure that we're testing our process and our prompts before we apply it to the high volume in order to make sure that we're using it in the best way possible. Third, we make an effort to track our success metrics across every application of this technology so that we can identify what's working and can build the case studies that enable us to sell this to other clients who are interested in using the technology. Fourth, testing and validation are also essential for identifying unforeseen challenges. Every new application of this technology uncovers something we didn't anticipate. And so doing that testing upfront makes sure that we're prepared to deal with that. And last but not least is the criticality of having a skilled attorney technologist involved in the process. That person understands both the technology and the legal challenge and can marry the technology to address that. This, I think, is a critical success factor that makes applying AI to legal cases possible. The next frontier is equally exciting. We've been using the latest large language models, but the technology continues to evolve and to develop. We're very excited about reasoning models that allow us to go deeper and provide more sophisticated analysis of the documents. We're excited about reinforcement learning that will allow attorney feedback to help guide the process and make things even more precise and accurate. We're also excited about agentic prompting, multi-step processes that are going to allow for more extraction of information and more sophisticated analysis. And finally, we're excited about multimodal models that will allow us to analyze image and audio and other multimedia sources. Thank you very much to Skills and to all of you for listening. Thank you also to other members of our team who not have been able to do this without Jim, Walter, and Emily foremost among them. Thank you all.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Inviting Scott, Andrew, and Pablo to the stage. There are some big numbers in that video to get into, so we have a few questions in the chat, so we'll keep an eye on those. Scott, I actually wanted to start with you. You talk about skilled lawyer technologists. It's this resourcing problem is industry wide, and I wondered how you resourced lawyer technologists and where are they from? Are you training them in-house or are they external?
Well, they're in-house, and actually you're looking at them. Andrew Weiner was the SME on this that was really instrumental in helping to see through almost all of these cases that we illustrated. I think the right blend of legal and technological expertise is not is not typical. It is somewhat hard to find, but there are people that have that sort of natural proclivity, and with the right sort of opportunities and guidance and mentorship, I think they can grow into it. So at least our experience has been finding the right people internally has been the right approach, but I imagine there are other approaches out there as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So all three of my sessions are law firms partnering with a vendor to deliver something bespoke along familiar use case lines. Can you tell us, Scott and Andrew, why you decided to partner with CoCounsel for this rather than another vendor? And for the question that's in the chat, how this approach or how CoCounsel is approaching it differently from other e-discovery vendors in the market?
Yeah, so I'll take that. So we've been working with Pablo and his team for a long time, back when they were Casetext, before they were acquired by Thomson Reuters. So definitely had long relationship and trust level there. Pablo was the first person who showed me the promise of large language models even before GPT-4 was released. I think all three of us here saw the immediate potential to apply that to the e-discovery challenge. So it was a natural fit based on that relationship and our past work.
And I saw that Cravath was nowhere on the AmLaw list, and I thought, wow, what a good case study if we could put them on the map by showing how using technology could do that. So it was like a sort of good fit, we thought. I kid. We actually, in 2022, we're using a BERT-based system. And if you look back, there is actually a skills. I think we actually won that with Evan Shankman. It's been incredible to see the evolution from our first, moments to now. And let me submit this to you guys. There's a lot of ambivalence we feel about applying these in a lot of contexts, and well, we should, right? There are a lot of areas where either cognitive de-skilling or, messing up how the common law evolves, all sorts of things that need to be fiercely human. And I don't in any way want to detract from that, but I submit that high volume e-discovery is the purest application of this that we will ever have on so many levels, right? The hallucination problem is instead weighed against what's our recall without it? What's our precision without it? And since the human is so wanting, you immediately you forgive the hallucinations, not because, oh, there's oversight, but because what we're doing is so much worse without it. And then you get to the speed, and then you get to the nuance and all of these things like that. So except for the fact that there are good men and women whose job right now is to wake up and go do this first pass job review. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, that is a way that people are making a living. That is the only thing left. And the fact that associates call this their easy billables, right, kind of tells you why it's the one that we want to just go ahead and just fully decapitate with LLMs, right? Sorry, decapitate is such a violent word. I don't know why I chose decapitate. But you know what I mean? That the full element, even as we're careful about how it impacts common law, briefing, drafting, all of these other things, I just think we should go absolutely nuts when it comes to who can review 1 million documents fast and get the client. And even if you use it as a supplement. Anyway, forgive the ranting, but I just think that this is a use case that is uniquely suitable.
There's our 1 minute warning. There are questions in the chat. I hope you stay around for answering, please, Pablo and Scott. I wanted to ask about the prompting, because the prompting for this scale of review must have been massive. And how did you manage the prompts going in?
Superbly.
Andrew, you want to take
technology?
I can take that one.
Yeah.
The way that we usually test our prompts is we start with a set of known responsive documents, usually broken out by category. So you got like 5 topics you're interested in. You start with 5 draft prompts and corresponding examples. Those become your positive sample set that you use to judge recall. You adjust the prompts until they're bringing in all of your positive samples. Then you take a random set from the universe of documents that you're going to submit, and you run those prompts across them, and that gives you a sense of both the actual prevalence in the data set of the actual responsive documents, and also how many false responsives are getting brought in. But of equal importance is just the total burden of review, the number of documents that's going to get submitted for second level review to humans. Once all these things are tuned up, you can start the main review.
And there were times where it had like tar-ish flavor, right? Where you'd like do something, see something, and then that could be used to adjust, right, how you would prompt it, right? We had a double prompting technique. I mean, there's different sort of techniques on it, but the main point is that it's the greatest place to put these things to bear because they read, right? You know, literally when we were talking about what's next, I think we made that slide a few weeks ago. I would say now if we were doing it, coding agents, I would have moved up in our list in light of what we're seeing. And you'll start to think of like, could the complaint itself be the prompt, right? Like what happens if you give a complaint and now say, analyze this and use that as your information seeking. So I just think there's so much further we can go one step at a time, but now at a minimum, this first pass doc review. And who would ask Cravath about paying what they charge their clients? Like Cravath would ever talk about their thing like that. Come on now. They would have just paid $600. That's an unseemly question to ask of Cravath Conan or any proper firm. I'm sure they worked out whatever they did.
Thank you ever so much for the video. We're going to go to breakout rooms any second. So I just want to remind people that after the breakout rooms, we have a real break called lunch. I don't know about you, but I'm hungry. We are heading back at like 2 p.m. Eastern. But obviously the open mic that we had at the break will be open from 1:40. So I wanted to say thank you for all of my participants in my 3 video sessions today. Fantastic videos and a lot of thought-provoking comments and questions and answers. And I hope we can continue the discussion both in the chat and during our open mic and breakout rooms, which are about to happen. Anything I've missed, Oz?
That's great. Thank you, guys. See you after lunch.
Bye.
And then we're going to ask the people who are online version only that just almost made it, but we can only do 9 showcases to talk about their sessions, just to explain what's there. So we could start by a quick minute. Ashley, if you could just tell us what your session is, so when we go to the website, we know what we're going to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm told I have a quick 1 minute to tell you about my program, so I'll do my best. So for those of you who haven't met, Ashley Elliott, CI Manager at newly combined FBT Gibbons. I'm on the data and innovation team here, and the project that I'm highlighting is an app that we developed called Co360. That app is really, it automates a company dossier that we have a lot of great information and data in our data lake. And the process that I was doing was very manual and began to feel like a machine. So enter the machines. So we automated a lot of, that process and the, 2 to 3 hour manual process of compiling information for our attorneys to use to prepare for business development meetings, for pitches, or just generally to get to know our client's business. That 2 to 3 hour process is now down to 5 minutes, and the data comes out in a really clean, structured way. So within the program, I'll tell you a little bit more about how we did that and what kind of information we're feeding in.
Thank you. It sounds highly relevant to most firms. So thank you for that. The floor is yours.
Yeah, Elaine was going to speak, so I think Elaine should be on the call as well.
Yes, you're both here.
I'm Elaine Bienvenu with Jones Walker, and over the course of my career, I've seen many technology innovations spark a lot of interest and then fizzle out. With respect to generative AI, our rollout, we've seen quite the opposite. After our firm retreat, more than 60 attorneys became steady Copilot users week after week. And it held. And now 8 months later, 80% of our Copilot licenses are active daily. With support from Floor, Blindenbach at Organizing for Innovation, we built an approach that stuck. If you're responsible for adoption and you want durable results, please watch our video. It's 6 minutes and you'll walk away with something that you can use right away.
Hi, everyone. We'd love for you to watch our video, The Future of Efficiency, Blending Automation and AI, where we tell the story of how we used our current awareness platform, Vable, as the starting point for a robust monitoring effort. Along with RSS feeds and Microsoft Power Automate, we introduced efficiency to a critical project that would eventually expand to monitoring over 500 government websites. Simply put, we consolidated the individual website tracking into Vable, then fed the RSS feeds into Power Automate, which resulted in translated and parsed content. We're really proud of this project since it leveraged existing technology with new offerings in artificial intelligence, all made possible due to our expert research team and our wonderful working relationship with Babel.
Thank you, Emily. And is that something that Babel now does as part of the general offering? Is that become part of the product offering now?
This started with Babel, so all of the centralized efforts and monitoring of websites and the RSS feeds was through Babel. And then we used that with Power Automate, and Sente advisors helped us with those efforts that got us to the end result.
Lovely. Oh, am I on? Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Oz. I'm Lucy Allen, Chief Growth Officer at Barbary, and I'm excited for you to see a conversation between me and Bill Kokolis from Aiken. That shines a light on something I think every firm is talking about, but perhaps few have really truly cracked, and that's how we develop our people. So Bill oversees training for more than 700 business services team members across the globe, and he has built something that I think is pretty game-changing. He's going to share in our conversation what he discovered when he first reviewed Aiken's learning programs, why traditional check-the-box training wasn't really cutting it for the firm, and how partnering with Barbary and Barbary's professional education business unit through our SkillBest catalogue really helped Aiken transform training into something that was much more relevant for them, modern and role-specific. So you'll hear how Aiken expanded from a few compliance modules to using well over 50 of our courses across onboarding, early career development, manager training, and leadership pathways. And I think you'll see how this shift is really driving cultural impact. So if you want to see what professional development really looks like in action when it's built for law firms in conjunction with law firms, then look forward to the session. Thank you.
Thank you. And training and education becomes really a big everywhere. And as our next session at 2:00 in 13 minutes will show, it really AI is part of the solution, not the problem for how we train associates.
Absolutely.
So very excited about that. And Ashley wants to thank Will Lambert for the help of building it. So thank you. Cindy, what are you up to?
Well, we're excited that we just merged with the firm called Gibbons. So we are now FBT Gibbons. Frost Brown Todd is now FBT Gibbons. And after going through, now we have 150 more attorneys to expose to our AI programs, our data and innovation team, and all of the tools that we have available. So we're kind of excited to start from scratch and help people understand, what our department does and the kinds of things that we're adding to our lawyers. So, and we just are getting some new AI tools that you'll be hearing more about, I'm sure.
And did Will Lambert come from the Gibbons side, or was he part of your team?
No, Will's been a data analyst on our team for about 18 months or so. From the FBT side, but we do have we had at least 3 people join our team from the Gibbons side, a couple of research analysts, and also someone who we're turning into an AI and workflow development manager. So we're going to be working with some tools that enable us to combine our Snowflake data lake with some AI tools, and he's going to be helping us with some of that, along with Paul Casey, who's been with our team for a while.
I probably don't, most of you probably don't know me. Some of the UK lot will know me. I'm John Krask. I'm Chief Innovation and Knowledge Officer at CMS. I'm also a Director of Litig, which for those of you who don't know is Legal, IT and Innovators Group. And that's why I'm here today. I want to talk to you a little bit about something that we've done. So, about a year ago, we started this initiative because we thought the legal industry is awash with claims about AI capability, little transparency, little shared understanding of what good looks like, little to no standardized information or due diligence processes when you're onboarding new legal AI tools, as we all are in our day jobs. Over the past year, Litig has brought together more than 300 organizations, law firms, suppliers, regulators, and academics and we've built an open framework that the whole sector can use. So the first milestone is we've published our AI Transparency Charter. It sets out clear expectations on openness, how tools are built, tested, validated, their limitations and how biases and risks are managed, etc. We've also created a sort of standardized legal AI product transparency statement to support this. So it's like a model card for legal AI, for those of you who know about Google's model cards. Transparency is the essential foundation for trust and adoption. And if we're going to all drive that sort of responsible adoption and innovation of AI, we think that Charter is a great foundation for this. We're already getting vendors signed up. So we've already got Harvey, LexisNexis, Gilo, Unwilded, and TrialView. Legora have signed up today, which is great. Momentum's building, and there's others in the pipeline. So if you want to read the Charter, or see the evolving resources, then, or sign up yourself if you're a supplier, or you want to get your suppliers to sign up, then just go to the LITIG website. It's litig.org. I'll stick it in the chat on in just a minute, or just find me on LinkedIn, and I can tell you about it. So yeah, I just wanted to spread the word a bit. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John.
I'll follow up on that. We are hiring 2 practice managers at FBT Gibbons. One is for transactional practices, one is for litigation. We already have directors in that area, but we're looking to beef up our teams. So if anybody would like to join a firm that's great with data innovation, AI, but is also, those teams work directly with the legal teams to help them be more productive, we would love to have you join us.
And where is the team, your team is based mainly?
They can really be based almost anywhere. So we're pretty flexible, and now we have lots of Northeast offices with the Gibbons merger. So you name it, we're there at this point, coast to coast.
And the actual team, not those that exist, where are you based? Where are the directors based?
The existing people in the practice management area are in Cincinnati, Ohio. But it's not a bad thing to have people who are in different areas, so we can cover a little bit more of our footprint.
Okay, Conan, the floor is yours.
Next up, we have Spotlight on Megan Ma and Pierce Kalaita from Stanford Law, and Thor Alden and Yasmin Bach from Deckard. So I think we can run the video of agents training the next generation of lawyers, a simulated M&A demonstration.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan. At Stanford, we have been researching questions of the impact of AI on legal education. We were really excited to partner with Deckard on this particular project. What we noticed very early on is that highly skilled professionals in any field gain their expertise in actually one way, which is experience, or otherwise practice. When I first learned how to play piano, I used to ask my piano teacher how he became the musician he is today. Without an ounce of uncertainty, he would always say to me, practice, practice, practice. And that is, practicing specific skills will always make you better at what you do. One of the core motivations at LiftLab is to bridge this gap between theory and practice in law. At LiftLab, our goal is to improve legal services, and this is done by leveraging research principles to experiment, test, and build new technologies. AI agents then, and in effect simulation, are therefore very exciting for us because they allow us to recreate realistic situations and circumstances found in practice, particularly these complex interpersonal relationships that can occur in the negotiation space. We started with transactions like M&A. And with AI agents, we can then create interactive environments where attorneys can use them to learn. I am particularly excited about AI-driven simulation training as they're able to rehearse experiences and gamify strategies that were not possible in the past.
So Megan calls it a multi-agent environment. I like to call it a video game. That just sounds really, really fun. And in this case, it's a video game that has the context of an M&A deal. So for anyone who's been working in legal for a while, it's pretty obvious that learning by doing is under pressure. The question is, how do you train the next generation of lawyers when AI can do many of those simple tasks that they formerly used to do? And so the work that attorneys used to do when they first started practicing simply will not exist in the future. And so from a law firm perspective, you really need to find ways to train that next generation. Won't happen tomorrow, that's for sure, but the key is really being proactive because law firm training cycles take multiple years, and it's really impossible for a law firm to afford the cost of having partners teach associates every last detail of being a good M&A lawyer. And so that's where simulation comes in. It's also a lot of fun. Pierce, do you want to show us how the tool works?
Absolutely. So here I'm showing the view that attorneys see when they're in the platform. Click Get Started, choose a module. We can do the corporate structure module, which is negotiating over an M&A deal. So we get a little briefing about the deal. There's a seller and a buyer. We're counsel representing Shopmaster, which is the buyer in this scenario. And here's the main simulation view that attorneys see. They can talk to their client or the opposing counsel. They can bring in other experts. And the key is that they can work on their ability to go back and forth between different parties to move the M&A deal along. So we can start talking to our client and say something like, what are you trying to achieve today? We can get some more background info on the seller or the buyer or the way that our client is thinking about this transaction. When we feel ready, we can go to the opposing counsel and we can negotiate with the opposing counsel. Client is looking to acquire TechEase. The key is that as a user of DealMentor, you can really work on your ability to be strategic, to know when to talk to the right people, and really just to try creative strategies. We can also bring in other experts. In this module, we have a tax specialist that's available to us, and we can go talk to them. Can I get, oops. And we can do this as long as we need to move the M&A deal forward and eventually come up with a good outcome. One of my favorite things about working with Deckert was that we were able to create additional personas for IP and securitization modules that we were able to add into this simulation or this video game. And this ended up adding more complexity and challenges to the deals that the different participants were able to go solve.
Thanks, Pierce. DealMentor is a great tool, but having a great tool is not everything. It's just as important to test it with the right group of attorneys. Here at Deckert, we started by testing DealMentor with our summer associates. Some of the benefits of working with summer associates is that they're still unaffected by law firm processes and they keep a really open mind. Over the summer, we put them into groups and asked them to play different scenarios. Some focused on core M&A scenarios, others used the additional tax, IP, and securitization experts to test what happens when we add more agents into the simulation. Many summer associates managed to solve the scenarios and get to a deal, and others did not. It was a great learning experience for all of us either way. At the end of the summer, then, we did something kind of special. We gave all of the participating summer associates an identical challenge and had them play the game in a competition against each other. They each tried to solve the challenges, and then we had human judges and AI grade them on their performance. From that, we had a final four and an overall winner. Interestingly, both human judges and AI picked the same overall winner. So that validates that AI is potentially good enough at evaluating the performance and output of the participants in this type of simulation.
Yeah, watching the summer associates play the game and complete all these modules was really eye-opening for us on the DealMentor team because it gave us a lot of helpful feedback. We've been integrating every piece of feedback that we've gotten from Deckert. And now we have the ability for law firms to build their own scenarios, build their own characters, their own personas, and even their own evaluation system. It's all flexible. It can be adjusted on the fly. And for us, this is really exciting because it allows us to move DealMentor into a place where it can be tailored to individual firms.
And actually, this program with Deckert was so successful that we decided to formally spin out DealMentor from LiftLab into its own entity. And for us, that is so important because we want to ground every research project that we work on into something that has practical implications for the profession. I'm so glad that we were able to take this step with DealMentor.
One of the features that I like about DealMentor from an innovation standpoint is that it really gives attorneys a chance to fail. As any experienced attorney knows, failure often teaches you more than successes. And the problem with failing on real deals is that they might end up hurting your career progression. But in a simulation, you can try these really challenging environments. You can try new strategies. You can see what happens when you take steps that you otherwise would not dare to take in the real world. And it really gives you a chance to build those processes without worrying about the possibility of failure. So it's that flexibility that Deal Mentor gives participants that really allow them to fail and try new challenging scenarios.
Let me show you how this works. So as an admin, you can go into the admin console and you can build scenarios or modules like this. You can customize the fact pattern, and you can also add training wheels for the users to interact with. We can also build personas or agents like this in the agent editor. We can imbue them with identities, with personalities, and even with implicit knowledge. So in this simulation, Descartes created a variety of clones of its Descartes partners that would serve as non-player characters who could interact with the attorneys. These clones had specific knowledge sets and specific instructions to make the modules more immersive.
What's particularly fascinating here is that we built these personas based on interview transcripts with real Descartes partners. This is something that we have been researching for a while, and that it's shown that actually with a 2-hour interview approximately, you can get up to 85% likeness to an attorney, and particularly the specific subconscious elements tethered to their expertise. You can understand their processes and their substantive knowledge. And we did this, and as a result, it gave us some very realistic AI twins in the simulation.
And it's something that our participants really appreciated. For example, some of our summers commented on how they learned a lot of substantive skills from these experts on the simulation, but then they were able to actually apply them outside of the simulation on actual projects and other trainings. So everybody learns in different ways. And for some associates, learning by doing in a simulated environment has been incredibly productive.
From a research standpoint, this is where it gets really interesting. You have all of these personas that you introduce, and then something unexpected happens. We have seen in other parts of research, specifically the generative agents paper, which was also written by other Stanford researchers here. They had kind of tested out how AI can start to develop these social behaviors. For us, we also noticed the exact same pattern where AI began to act as people and introduce novel fact patterns and theories. In fact, the AI was introducing new ideas on how to approach strategies in the M&A space. So what you're able to do here is not just do repetitive training concepts, but actually see how they evolve over time.
From a law firm perspective, it's really exciting because you can actually train attorneys in ways not possible before. Our goal is always to have our future generation of lawyers be better than the current generation. And the question is, how do you get there? It's not about cutting costs on training. It's about giving attorneys a situation that no one has encountered before. And that's really how you learn to think on your feet.
And it's also that attorneys can isolate weaknesses and focus on them in the simulation. So our hope is that agentic simulation serves as a learning path for attorneys to progress their skills. The same way that a soccer player might practice penalty kicks, an attorney should be able to set aside some time to work on their M&A process skills. It's all about isolating those skills and then working on them.
To continue Yaz's sports analogy, we like to think of Deal Mentor evaluations as going back and watching film. We're able to record all interactions, which you often cannot do in a live client matter. Because all of these simulations are recorded, we can go back, look at them, and you can see as an attorney where you did well, where you didn't do well, and how you want to work on your skills in further simulations and in real life. So these simulations can lead to much better performance analysis than just looking at live client matters, the same way that almost every good sports team goes back and looks at film.
We are just so excited about what's next for Deal Mentor. It is a clear demonstration of tethering research to practice, and we are so grateful to Descartes for this opportunity, and we are incredibly thrilled to continue showcasing how the impact of AI simulation training could have a longer-term impact for law firm training more broadly.
All right, that was really That's really cool. I mean, that's some cool stuff. I have to admit, I was I was on the West Coast back in, when was it, end of September, and I had the good fortune of hanging with Megan and Pierce and seeing what they were working on. And hey, Pierce. And I was just blown away. And it was the thing, and I know Joe Green is in the New York Watch Party, and he was early on this and how we're going to train the next wave of lawyers with all this disruption that we believe is coming. So really cool to see. And of course, Thor's been thinking, different projects that I feel are somewhat, overlapping and related. So really great that you put the time into that video. So I want to start with the Stanford team. So Megan, Pierce, are we building flight simulators for lawyers? And how much will this be part of legal training at law firms within the next, say, 3 years?
Yeah, that's a great question, Conan. I think for us, our hope is that it is exactly like a flight simulator. We always say, actually, the catchphrase that I often use is that pilots have pilot simulators and doctors, surgeons have simulations to do complex surgeries. Why can't we do that for attorneys? And so for us, our hope is that it will be integrated into the training at law firms. We're also thinking about it from the purely education standpoint as well. So at law schools, and so you have this kind of continuity where you start from the law school space, have those simulations maybe at a more simplistic kind of standard, and then you can grow into more sophisticated, complicated, open-ended negotiations or any other type of related problem-solving skill.
Conan, you're on mute. But one thing I want to add to what Megan was saying is I think in your question, there's the training everybody on general skills and capabilities, right? I think that's very important. But one other thing we actually got out of the program is we had a number of partners say, hey, you could also use this. I'm about to negotiate a deal with the other side. These are the facts. So it's really on the spot training for the one deal that you're working on to get you ready and sort of get you going on it, right? That's a different training than you would have, right? What Megan was focusing on. It's sort of, I'm about to do a deal. These are the 30 issues I care about. Just sort of test me, see how I do, right? I think both of those use cases are equally valid, and both you can do with this type of program that's very flexible.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense because, just because you're in M&A doesn't mean every deal has the same template, and far from it in the types of firms that are part of this session today. So I think that's great, like in time, like right time, right place, training on the fly. I love that. But I loved the way you framed it, Thor, that this is like video game. This is a video game, right? And I think that will help with adoption and immersiveness of the tool. And there's a lot of advantages with it. But one disadvantage it might be the move from human-led to machine-led trainings. So in a time where tech is increasingly mediating human relationships, coupled with a growing faction of dissidents to this reality, how will the training of like the humanity aspects of law evolve, if at all?
Yeah, I can start. So I think for us, we don't want to replace any of the existing training programs or even the fact that there is the apprenticeship model that exists in the law firm. This is merely kind of complementary to it. We're almost thinking about it as building the muscle reps or doing those reps so that you can get a better experience out of your one-on-ones with partners. And so sometimes I think associates, even with students here, it takes a while to get to what they really think they don't understand. And that's really what the simulations are for, is actually revealing kind of the locus of the problem or locus of weakness and where to kind of strengthen it. And then you can kind of go back to your partner and have a much sharper experience in getting that feedback that you want from them.
And to draw an analogy, if you think about what a doctor will do, right? When you visit a doctor, the doctor is not going to do the things the nurse can do or other people in the office can do. And from a training perspective, you can use these programs to train you on all the things that the partner no longer has to teach you. And then when the human does come in, they can really, really focus on those human elements that otherwise you might miss. So it's right. I don't think it's replacing. In fact, I think it's really elevating the training you do as a human and really focusing on the human parts so that you can skip a lot of the things that you really don't need to do.
All right, I think we have time for one more question and maybe a quick one from me to wrap it up. But I'll take this one from Oz. How do you replicate the back and forth red line document experience?
So we actually are not necessarily tethering it to an artifact at this point. So it's a different stage in the negotiation. We're kind of looking at pre-LOI, for example. So just figuring out what the relative leverage is between two parties. We also want to contextualize that it's not necessarily tethered to M&A negotiation. It's now extended into a number of different scenarios and different expertise. So it also includes something totally left field, like it could be in settlement negotiations. And just to tackle that question about how long it takes to develop the modules, it historically took kind of a little bit of time, I'd say maybe 2 weeks, to build like a 2-page hypothetical. And then that's how we translate it into the modules. Now, with the newest feature that is coming out that Pierce has helped us build, you can actually do modules on the fly. So it takes something like 5 minutes to really get a module out.
Thor, you got 15 seconds if you want to add anything.
No, I think the ability to do it fast is so important in legal, where time is really a premium, that being able to say, this is what I'm working on, upload it, try me, go. I mean, I think there's a lot of value there. So I think that's a really exciting development from our end.
Okay, and quick answer on this. When are these AI agents going to be AI avatars and we're going to see real deep fakes in these simulations? Just give me the date. Megan.
We always have mixed reviews on it.
All right. Well, we'll table that for next year. Thanks, everybody. We're going to move on to the next.
And just before that, shout out, we also have in the Zoom now the founders of Ruby. So if people have questions for people who also do M&A training. So that was great. Thank you all. Conan.
Awesome. Yes. And now we have Andrea Alliston, partner in knowledge and practice innovation for Fasken. And of course, everybody knows Christian Lang, founder and CEO of Lega.
Hi, I'm Andrea Alliston, partner and leader of knowledge and practice innovation at Fasken Martin O'Dumoulin in Canada.
And I'm Christian Lang, CEO of Lega.
Today, we're going to share how we partnered to run a client co-creation lab where Fasken invited over 50 of our clients to spend an afternoon with us learning about AI and building working AI applications.
What started as an experiment turned into one of the most eye-opening experiences we've had about what clients actually need during this AI transition.
So let's start with the challenge. Clients were coming to us with questions about AI, but they were looking for more. They wanted to understand what AI could actually do for them in practical, actionable terms. We were also looking to engage with them in a more meaningful way.
That's where Lega came in. We'd been working with the Fasken team to use our Gen AI lab as an experiential learning tool, so we understood how well light bulb moments happen when people actually get hands-on with the technology, running models side by side, building apps and agents, actually twisting dials and experiencing the impact.
Exactly. We played a role in an experiential workshop Lega ran at ILTA Evolve last year, so we knew how engaging a true building sprint could be. Sometimes I get ideas, usually in the middle of the night. This idea was to ask out loud whether we could create the same experience for Fasken's clients. Not a demo, not a presentation, but a real workshop where they could build something. The team was game, as was firm leadership. Was Lega? Were our clients? Would they come?
We love the idea. A big part of Lega's mission is helping to demystify what seems like an AI black box. And we'd run these experiential workshops at conferences and at law firms and law schools, so we know this could be powerful. And thankfully, Fasken's clients jumped at the chance. Before the Fasken team knew it, the workshop was at capacity. So we bunkered down and got to work. First step, we collaborated with Fasken to identify use cases that would resonate with in-house legal teams.
We landed on 2 scenarios. First, streamlining high volume, low risk work, specifically NDAs, something everyone is familiar with. Second, turning regulatory updates into digestible summaries for management audiences, showing the potential of AI.
With those use cases locked in, we designed a 3-phase journey to attack each of those problems. In phase 1, participants were challenged to see how far they could advance a solution to their problem using prompting alone in a general chatbot. In phase 2, participants took their draft prompts into Lega's model comparison sandbox to A/B test different models side by side to identify the right model for their use case. And finally, in phase 3, we brought it all together. They took that learning into the Lega lab to build a reusable, scalable app prototype, crafting system prompts, configuring the model settings, and carefully incorporating relevant context through RAG databases and external integrations.
All along the way, members from our team in Lega provided in-depth AI education, expert prompt training, and examples to make sure no one was left behind. We also engaged the audience in polling to let them share broadly their experiences and perspectives. By the end of the session, participants had collaborated to build actual working prototypes of a reusable app.
And that was the key. They weren't just learning about AI, they were creating with AI.
So here's what we learned. First, it's good to have ideas in the middle of the night, even if you lose sleep on other nights executing that idea. More importantly, we learned that our clients are looking for ways that they can experience AI firsthand. Law firms take for granted the opportunities that we have to try new technology. Our clients are looking for the same opportunities, and many of them can't get that access internally.
But it went deeper than just tool access. Fasken's clients were eager to collaborate with them to workshop solutions. They weren't expecting the firm to have all the answers. What they wanted was a partner willing to explore alongside of them with an open mind and to help guide them a bit along the way.
That value of the two-way street may have been the most important lesson learned of all. We realized that by creating this hands-on experience, we weren't just teaching our clients about AI, we were gaining invaluable insight into what they'll expect from us going forward. At this moment of profound change, the value of engaging directly with clients to hear in their words what they need is hard to overstate.
Finally, from our perspective, we learned that even the most forward-thinking and forward-leaning firms need support facilitating these kinds of client collaborations. Not every firm has resources or expertise to design experiential learning at scale, and even those that do are stretched to the max with current responsibilities. That's where partnerships with external experts can add important scale and tremendous value.
If I could distill this down to one insight, it's that creating opportunities to walk the AI journey alongside your clients can build relationships and partnerships that will define the next era of legal services. This interactive workshop was just that, a hands-on AI experience that went well beyond a simple educational experience.
Because at the end of the day, this isn't about AI. It's about creating shared understanding and trust during a moment of massive uncertainty.
We'll be happy to take your questions.
All right, great job. There's Christian. We'll get Allison up here, and there's Andrea, sorry.
All right.
We have Andrea and Christian. So first thing when I saw this video, because I had the privilege of seeing these videos ahead of time, Andrea, are any of these prototypes being carried forth? And can you speak about any of that?
Not in specific, they're not really, right? Like we had two very specific examples that we used in the workshop. But what was fascinating was to participate in conversations with clients where they're like, oh, well, I might not do this, but we have this problem that we're trying to solve. And so to me, that was really valuable hearing those ideas.
And typically in the vendor customer venture, the vendor is doing most of the work, right? And we see this like, just like examples are like law firms with their clients, right? When you do an initiative, maybe it's a pro bono, you know, a lot of times law firms end up picking up the slack. I'm sure, Christian, you're picking up our slack for us as you're working. I mean, I'm sure Andrea is just a great collaborator, but have you needed to do anything to keep the momentum, or was like the workshop so profound that the clients just can't get enough and you're seeing like that interest carry on? I guess
that's for me. So at least, sorry, I'm assuming that's for me, but Christian, like at least I've had conversations with at least a dozen clients from that, like afterwards, about further inquiries about what we're using AI for, talking to them about their challenges and things like that. So to me, that was really invaluable, but also seeing them connect with each other. right? They were all at tables. So they were actually working. We encouraged them to work together on the solutions. And then hearing them talk with each other about the challenges that they are collectively facing and commonly facing. So helping them make connections with each other was also a really nice, unexpected benefit of it.
Yeah, maybe I'll get Christian in here, and I'll kind of go off the two questions that are in here. But like, what's the time commitment here, Christian? The prep work, and how long is this event? And do you sense there is you've done a few of these now, so like, do you sense there is a sweet spot? Too long, too little? Like, what are your senses there?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of prep work to your earlier question. We try to take as much of that as we can. I think the sweet spot is somewhere between like 2 and 3 hours, probably 3 hours. It's a meaningful thing. Like we're trying to help take people through a journey and really they're actually building it. A lot of people say workshop and somebody's presenting. This is like you're actually doing in the room. And so we like to take people through that journey. And we really find it takes that kind of level to have it be a very meaningful experience. Sorry, what was the other half of your question, Conan? You mentioned the time commitment and.
Yeah, I think you hit most of it, but I will piggyback on that and say another question is, did we break up by practice groups, or did you think a mix actually worked well in this situation?
So what we did this at the Fasken workshop, certainly, and those were kind of client-facing use cases as opposed to like law firm-facing use cases. You bring kind of multiple, and we do like to let people try to gravitate and build multiple types of solutions. But it often is really, this sort of experience, I think, is really enhanced by kind of an ecumenical gathering where you have different people with different perspectives talking to one another, trying to understand the world. I mean, Andrea, the clip she had at the end of the video, I think sums it up very well when she was talking about building relationships and partnerships that defines the next phase. I mean, we're going into a world of massive uncertainty here. And we really need to learn a lot, like almost in tech terms, find new kind of product market fit for what we do as lawyers and how that actually works. So I think a lot of the journey here is not about, well, how do we predefine what's going to happen in a very narrow way? Some of that's good to make things tangible, but you really want to help people explore the art of the possible when we're all going to this big world of uncertainty. I mean, I think that's the real goal for these sorts of experiential AI workshops, because we need all hands on deck trying to reimagine what the future of legal practice and service delivery looks like.
And some of them went off script, like some of them did not follow what we had suggested that they do. And, we had a break in the middle of it, of the 3 hours, and the firm managing partner came up to me and goes, nobody's leaving. They're all just still sitting there working away. And so for us, that was a really great sign of success, that they were prepared to sit with us for 3 hours and learn.
That's so great. And the poll is up, and I think we're about out of time, but are there, maybe to leave with, Christian, are there any techniques or kind of disciplines that you pull from when you think about designing these workshops?
I think there's a tendency to try to overscript and overdo things. I think trying to facilitate creativity when people are kind of scared about the future, that's kind of hard. So doing some experience design, trying to think about how do we empower people, give them, like we treat it like a cooking class where you can go nuts and do all this gourmet stuff, but we give you like examples along the way. So if you want to do the meal kit version, you can do the meal kit version. So we give them some safety, but then as Andrea said, let them go off piste. Give them access to a bunch of like MCP servers that can reach out and do cool things and see what they come up with. There's a real balance between trying to be prescriptive and trying to empower exploration that I think is critical to kind of that light bulb moment. So that's what we try to do, and I'd commend that approach to anyone else who wants to try to do
it.
this.
Sorry, we are at time, so we will let you go. Christian and Andrea, great stuff. Thanks for participating.
Thank you.
Right. So we are on. Stephanie's cracking the whip. I'm trying to keep us. Okay, now next we have Reed Smith and Harvey. We got we're going to have Richard Robbins and Brian Blejo and Jonathan Talbot from Reed Smith in the video, and Mashad Hall also in the video, but just Jonathan and Mashad will join us after. So let's see how Gen AI found a home at Reed Smith.
I'm Rich Robbins, the Director of Applied AI at Reed Smith. My team's mission is to promote effective and responsible use of AI at scale aligned to our firm's strategy. Harvey's our primary AI platform, and when it comes to adoption, we've had remarkable success. I like to describe it as firm-wide embrace. Getting to where we are has been the result of our great partnership with Harvey and incredible teamwork that spans both organizations.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Blejo. When the first AI tools for the legal market arrived via the research providers, my phone lit up. The demos were amazing, but the limits on the tech were blurry, especially in those early days. Like everyone, vendors included, we had more questions than answers. The upside of all that hype, though, was access, and our firm leadership leaned in early, and two truths began to emerge: that AI would change how legal work gets done, even if we couldn't yet define exactly how, and Reed Smith's innovative culture put us in a strong position to lead. We built a human-centered strategy, we recruited technical and strategic talent, and we invited our people in every role and office to explore, test, and tell us what mattered. Dave Cunningham, our Chief of Innovation, proposed a new role, and Rich Robbins became our Director of Applied AI. At the same time, we pursued buy-in from the top and energy from the bottom. We engaged every early adopter and documented everything, building a ready network. That momentum culminated in a clear directive from our global managing partner, Casey Bryan: Reed Smith will be an AI-enabled firm. That mandate guided our choices. We evaluated widely and started with a generalist tool that could help the greatest number of lawyers and professionals across locations. Something broad enough to spark experimentation at scale. We built an initial AI program and handed it to our new applied AI team so they could hit the ground running. And we knew partnership would really matter. We wanted a tool backed by people who shared our direction. Enter Harvey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mashad from Harvey. When Reed Smith chose Harvey, it was clear this wasn't just another onboarding. It was the start of a real partnership that would shape how a global innovative firm brings generative AI into its culture and its practice. Reed Smith showed up with purpose. They weren't experimenting, they were investing in capability, alignment, and scale. That focus set the foundation for everything that followed. Harvey's approach overall has always been to meet Reed Smith where they are. Early on, that meant listening, understanding practice needs, leadership goals, what excited attorneys, what felt uncertain. And from there, we partnered across the firm with Rich, Brian, Jonathan, library and research, IT, L&D, and many others to build thoughtful rollout plans, training paths, and user-friendly product guidance. As their usage grew, the partnership deepened. We brought in legal product specialists, solution architects, product managers from Harvey, not just to support Reed Smith, but to learn from them. Many of the features in Harvey today come from Reed Smith pushing the boundaries and creating alongside us. What I've appreciated most is how proactive and collaborative the firm has been. When leadership set the tone, people across the firm amplified it. When demand surged, we scaled together. When new practice groups wanted in, we tailored onboarding for them. And when questions came up, which always happens with new technology, we worked through them as one team. The journey hasn't been linear. It's been iterative, ambitious, and human. Because we built trust early, we could move quickly with both speed and intention.
I'm Jonathan Talbot, and I'm fortunate to build on the work that these folks had previously done. The details matter. We work on this challenge every day. There's no single recipe. We use a multi-pronged approach through our AI office hours, our AI mailbox, Harvey clinics, AI-enabled presentations, and training sessions. We meet users where they are using every channel available. Teamwork is essential. Our innovation team, our IT, L&D, and the Harvey team all work together to help our users move forward. How did we scale? Leadership sets the tone. Our global managing partner, Casey Ryan, is all in on AI at Reed Smith. Her support makes a real difference. She references AI consistently in firm updates. Casey has required all associates to complete training and use Harvey. Importantly, support comes from leaders across the firm, which accelerates adoption. It's a marathon, not a sprint. We're playing the long game. This isn't a one-off initiative. We teach and we guide at every opportunity and build skills through hands-on practice. In meetings with lawyers and staff, I ask them to take the wheel in Harvey so they learn by doing. As Rich famously states, generative AI is not a spectator sport. We measure and share progress. As successes circulate, healthy FOMO sets in, and participation keeps growing. The proof is in the pudding. We continue to see strong, steady growth in Harvey usage, 400 per day, 700 per week, and over 1,000 a month. Alongside more users each month, users are engaging more deeply with higher volumes and queries. All associates have completed training and more than 70% of partners in council. Our internal survey results were excellent and reinforce the value teams are getting from Harvey. A few words to the wise. Teamwork and collaboration are essential. Listen to the voice of your customers. Success compounds. Choose the right partner. Tone at the top drives momentum. A blended approach works. Grassroots, top down, and middle out every day and every way. Thank you for your time.
Right, now we'll bring on Jonathan and Mashad. And so while we're waiting for Mashad, there she is. But Jonathan, I'd like to start with you. Good to see you. How do you, I've heard this from some of your colleagues speak before, but can you define what an active user is at Reed Smith?
Active user, yes. We have lots of good discussions about that, right? You know, we have a way, Harvey has given us many ways to manage the analytics and the metrics and look at who these users are. We've gone further and defined what we call a session, right? So more advanced than just someone logging in and doing those type of things. But the numbers you saw are the active users. Those are the people who actually use the system, you know, daily, weekly, monthly.
So people are using the platform. That's always, I think, that the biggest hurdle, at least at this stage of AI adoption. But what practical impact, and this is for both of you, has been realized, and if you can share any specific workflows that you've streamlined?
Yeah, so many workflows. Of course, Harvey has the workflow builder, which we are utilizing, and we riff off of some of the things that they built in their standard workflows, things like summarizing material changes from a red line and you know, making that for Reed Smith specifically. We have a very large client that wants everything written in a certain way, and it's kind of the opposite of the way lawyers write. So we've created workflows and things in the Word add-in that allow them to conform to that writing. Mashad, anything you want?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think to Jonathan's point, we've tried to enable them with many of the pre-built. We have a number of pre-built workflows for general legal purposes, transactional focused, litigation focused. Some of the things that Jonathan covered, but really, I think what he mentioned at first is our ability to have a custom workflow builder that allows you to really make it specific. You know, use Reed Smith's own IP to create repeatable, anything that, you know, across the different practice groups is being done time and again. So it's not just doing it in a way that we're guessing how your law firm works or how your lawyers work, but really, you know, anchoring it to specific precedents, anchoring it to specific data rooms, and then really using the language and the tone. I know Rich and Brian are on as well, if there are any nuances you'd like to share in terms of your own custom experiences.
I'll never let a gap exist. No, look, it's really about listening to the lawyers and working with them, as opposed to kind of, you know, going across and saying, hey, we can show a uniform way across the firm. I think what we found is that our use has been quite it's broad, but largely idiosyncratic individuals. Now we're moving into a phase where I think people are looking to formalize, make things more consistent, and it's across those smaller tasks that get aggregated up into the larger things that they're working on. So we're not going to sit there and say, we found the one way to do, you know, X, Y, or Z. It really is about reimagining what they're doing.
I think the poll is going to launch soon. So we got, there it is. So I have a two-pronged question. I'm going to start with Mashad on this to finish out here. Brian in the video said, you know, and this was early on, very early on, you know, the software wasn't kind of where it is, definitely isn't there today. What did Harvey learn from Reed Smith on that journey? If you can keep it like 20 seconds or so.
Sure. I mean, like I said, there's only so much guesswork that we can put into something. And so really working with teams like Rich to implement a lot of these specific, taking the genericized workflows that we've made and then bringing them to the lawyers, understanding, where research needs to fit in, where connections to external knowledge sources need to fit in, connecting with a data management system. So really kind of repeatedly reprioritizing what it was that they needed to see in order to drive adoption, and then moving the needle according to that.
And then in the last 20, 30 seconds, just on top of that, Jonathan, Rich, you're helping Harvey build this platform that they're going out and selling to other law firms. Was that contemplated? How did you reconcile that, or what was the philosophy around that partnership?
It's just been sort of organic. The work that we do with Harvey is good for us. It's good for the community, period. It is the spirit of everything that we've done in this group skills. It's fully in keeping with how we have worked together.
And we've also worked with their product teams. We had ideas and we've helped shape how the product has turned out. So it's been a great partnership, as we said, to work together to do that.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining. And we're gonna, I think, enter in are we at the last one? Are we at the finale here? We're here in the last of the 9 sessions that you'll be voting on. And we have Radek Kraus, partner from White & Case, and Daniel Porras from Legatix on demonstrating ROI with legal tech at White & Case.
We know law firms are under increasing pressure to prove the return on investment from legal technology, but capturing and communicating that value can be challenging. My name is Daniel Porras, Chief Commercial Officer at Legatix, and in this session, I'm joined by Radek Kraus, a local partner from White & Case. Radek will provide a practical view on quantifying ROI in day-to-day practice. So Radek, what ROI indicators mattered most to you when evaluating Legatix?
Thank you, Daniel. When evaluating and considering Legatix, we initially look at the obvious metric, hours saved on the CP process. And while that is certainly useful, as you may probably guess, it is on its own a little bit too narrow. So what we ultimately concentrated on was capacity of the fee earners. With a CP platform in place, such as Legatix, we thought that junior lawyers and paralegals can simply handle more deals at once without compromising quality of the work. On the qualitative side, we aimed primarily for client experience improvement and at the same time reducing margin for error. In other words, we want to get clients benefits of 24/7 status visibility, fewer emails, clean confirmation workflow, and also an automatically generated transaction Bible, for example. All of that while carrying a much lower risk of error. In practice, it actually, the qualitative gains, we think, clearly outweighed the pure time savings.
So can you share some practical example of how Legatix delivered against those objectives in a real deal?
Recently, we had a quite large cross-border project financing transaction, which involved all of the bells and whistles, sophisticated sponsor, project companies spread across multiple jurisdictions, 10 financial institutions from both sides of the pond, and all of that on a very aggressive timeline. And traditionally, coordinated CBS circulation and lender sign-off in a deal like that would have taken days, if not weeks, of back and forth communication. With Legatix, we were able to give everybody an up-to-date CB status, regardless of their specific time zone. We were able to ask each lender to log into that platform and confirm satisfaction of the CPs directly in the platform, which quite dramatically cut down email traffic and also the number of CP calls. It also allowed us to focus conversations on real commercial topics instead of chasing updates on technical documents and the usual CP process. It also simplified not only ours, but also the clients and especially facility agents role because of the lender sign-off tracking in the platform directly. And at the same time, it again reduced margin on our side and the facility agent side. So all of that also improved the overall client experience, both lenders and the agent.
So Radek, quantifying ROI can be challenging. How do you actually go about quantifying the value of those gains?
We run an internal survey, and most, if not all, Legatix users report major time savings with ranges from 50% for mid-level associates to up to 80% for paralegals, which is already quite a substantive quantitative improvement. But what we concentrated on is how many CP processes a junior lawyer or paralegal can run in parallel. And with traditional checklists and documents coming from multiple sources, the capacity is quite limited, or used to be quite limited. But we see that with Legatix or similar CP platforms, people can comfortably run at least twice as many matters at the same time, which in a billable hour world is, this metric has its limits, obviously, but if you factor in fixed or capped fees arrangements, I think it already becomes quite tangible. But as I think everybody suspects, the difference is most striking with qualitative aspects, the client experience above all. It is far more convenient. Clients consistently praise the clarity of Legatix, how convenient it is to use, and this alone, I think, already plays a huge role in assessing the ROI.
And how have clients responded to the use of technology on their matters?
At least we are increasingly seeing RFPs from banks and financial institutions, where most of my clients come from, that they ask for establishment of Legatix or a similar CP platform at the outset of each transaction. So in our view, this has already become a market expectation. So not offering it could actually put us at a disadvantage. And even for the clients who do not require this upfront, when they use it once, they require it the next time. So we see this as new market standard. But to be honest, I don't think that the real differentiator here is the technology itself, but it's how you deploy it. And we, for example, have a dedicated practice technology team that trains and supports our lawyers. And as a result, we have a strong group of associates and paralegals who are fully comfortable running matters through a CP platform such as Legatix. And that shift in mindset is what actually, for us, makes the real difference and where we believe the real value lies. It's just that Legatix makes these transactions so much easier because how intuitive and user-friendly it is.
All right, and we'll enter Radek and Daniel to the stage. And this one is this is a problem I've been working on for several years. And it's one of those that, man, there's a lot of opportunity here, but also it's a steep hill to climb. And Daniel, you're doing great work trying to go up that hill. And Radek, I really loved your story. So I'm going to jump right in. And probably most of these are directed toward Radek. No shade, Daniel, but I want you to jump in too. Also being a former lawyer or a lawyer yourself. Radek, how hard was it to get vendors to log in and confirm CPs directly in the platform? And if it was hard, what tactics did you use? You're on mute.
Can you hear me now, please? Okay, sorry. Well, yeah, as you said, it can be an uphill battle, but so my clients are usually financial institutions, so it can get even more difficult with them. But given how easy to use it is, we usually just tell them, and they can follow through. So once they learn to log in, how to log in, they can actually quite easily do it. And even if they're not, at least in my world, it's sufficient to teach the agent how to do it, so that it can do it for the other lenders as well. So and given on how many deals similar CP platforms have been deployed recently, I think even the banks are getting more skilled at that.
Yeah, and so Legatix definitely changes the dynamics for the deal teams, as you mentioned. And so another change in just sort of the way these deals are done is details that were once kept behind lock and key until distributed via email are now in theory available 24/7. So I imagine this changes the expectations of external stakeholders. And so what process changes have you had to make to accommodate this reality? And then Daniel, I'd also like to hear you chime in on best practices.
I don't think we needed to make too many changes, but what definitely changed for us is how we handle documents, because we just upload everything into the platform. And so, for example, we don't do transaction Bibles anymore because everybody can download it from the platform directly. And recently, I worked on a deal where Legatix wasn't used, and I experienced the utter pain of putting a transaction Bible together again. And yeah, so these little things you really appreciate only when you need to do it the old way. That's something which makes a difference, at least to me, and I believe to everybody. Daniel, if you want to.
I think just one thing to weigh in as well, like sometimes people look to the big time savings. So creating your closing set, that was a big process, but actually a lot of the gains we've found come from the incremental time savings, from just the little bits that happen along the transaction. So one thing that is quite interesting, I remember as a former lawyer, having to have an all parties call, you update the checklist, you circulate it around, but actually you have to wait till you've got a sufficient number of documents to update that checklist to recirculate it. With an online platform like Legatix, it's actually all happening in real time, and it's those incremental savings that just keep pushing the deal along. And if you add up all those tiny bits together, that's what really has a huge impact as well. So there are the big bang things like creating your closing set in just a couple clicks of a button, but actually the incremental time savings can have a huge aspect as well.
Awesome. Okay, so the poll is up. So the last question I have while people do their polling is, Radek, now that you're more comfortable with Legatix, you're adopting it more, is the strategy to push clients more now to AFAs? Are you going to be the driver of that, since it could make more sense now for your model?
Yeah, we actually try to put it through because for the efficiency and pure time savings on our end. And we try to persuade the clients, just saying that, look, it's going to be easier for you, for everybody, and we just can concentrate on more important things than sending documents back and forth.
Great. So I think the polling is down. I just missed a question because some other questions were applying from the last session. So I think there's one in from Michelle Schmidt. If Daniel or Radek, you want to take that in the chat about how long it took to develop the UI for the CP platform. I'm guessing that's for Daniel, but I'm also thinking it might be for Radek on just how long does it take you to put in a checklist, which I don't think it takes that long anymore.
Yeah, maybe do you want to take that, Radek, about how long it takes to actually?
Yeah, real quick, because we gotta bounce. I'm in trouble already.
Yeah, I think that the setup isn't different to a classic CP checklist. So whatever you would spend on putting it into Word, you spent setting up Legatix site.
Templates now that you can make, right? So
yeah,
awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. That wraps us up for all the sessions, and I think we're gonna be going into the last breakouts, and I'll hand it over to you, Oz.
So I have the honor of announcing the date. Yes, 2027. That's my role. And so next year, if you liked it, save on your calendar, so nothing will take it. So third place is Debevoise and Maven. Great. Second place, Cozen and Deep Judge, which means that on first place, 2 years in a row, Frascan and Lega. So congratulations, Andrea and Christian. And you guys can all go on mute and tell them how great they were, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone, very much. That was actually quite unexpected. And I did really lose sleep over that. It was not for the faint of heart to do something like that. So this sort of makes up for that very, very much. So thank you.
Yeah. So
I don't know where Christian is.
So 2 things you're going to get in your links on the chat. One is a link to the survey for feedback. What did you like? What did you not like? How can we do it better next time? And 2 is a link to the Remo for additional hour for anyone who wants to talk with each other on the Remo. If you haven't been there yet, it's a great chance. You have to click on a chair in a room to take that spot. So answer the survey, and we'll see you on the Remo. And we'll see you in January 14, 2017, if not before that. Thank you again for everyone who contributed, all the presenters, all the advisory board, Ab and Rebecca for doing the work on the survey, and Ab and Rebecca for doing the more work on the survey that they promised us an interactive dashboard. I outed them today, but they're going to do it anyway. And thank you all, and see you on the other side on the Remo.